All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. We are here. We're live. I did not go to bed. I am awake. I did not sleep last night because it has been a crazy 24 hours, but we are here. We are live. And quite frankly, I am filled with energy because I did not even realize how many companies that we have earnings for today. But it's a lot of them. The list right here, as I bring it up, it's going to be madness after hours because obviously we've got AMD that I know everyone cares about, and that's going to be important. But then you got Lucid. I forgot there's Open Door today. That's a big one. Zeta, Arista, A-Lab, Snapchat, Rivn, SMCI, Toast. There's just a lot of companies that we have today that we're going to be looking at after the bell. Obviously, AMD is the biggest one. So we'll be going through it and discussing what we've got on earnings. Again, AMD, we will be streaming the call at 5 p.m. Eastern. So we will go through the results for about an hour, try to get deep into what we've got along with the other companies. And then we will see what we got for AMD. Now, we are about 14 minutes away from the market close, and the broader market has been flat to red across a variety of different stocks today. The S&P 500 is red. This one stock that I know I spent basically 4 hours talking about in the morning, so I don't want to spend even more time discussing it because I know you guys are probably tired of me talking about it all day, but it had one of those quarters where you kind of needed to dedicate a lot of coverage to it today. Palantir, 172, up 7.18%. I'll have a lot more to say about Palantir on Palantir Weekly in a couple days as we get through the numbers, and I'm still going through the numbers, going through earnings myself. But I will say the fact that it's holding 7%, on a day where the broader market really isn't holding up, S&P 500 down 0.5%. Usually that's not good for a lot of high beta growth names. Just means that the street is really piling into Palantir. And as a result, they are obviously very excited about the momentum that we're seeing right now. By the way, I fixed the bell. So our bell is fixed. We rang it for 176. And that was, we usually are 175. We ring it for the 5s and 0s on new momentous occasions. So bell is fixed, and now it's just a question of if the street's going to continue to expand the multiple. Again, we busted through 176 in the morning. We got rejected at 176.33. Now we're back here at 172. I'll take it. You give me above a 170 close, not the worst thing in the world. So we will see how that one closes out to end out the day. Now, UNH is up 4%. There was a fake article going around that Buffett is buying UNH. It doesn't seem like that's actually happening. I didn't get full confirmation on it. Kind of feels like there's some hedge funds that pumped up this rumor to kind of get it green based on some of the manipulation that's going on in the option market. But there were a lot of big accounts tweeting that Berkshire is like officially buying one of the subsidiaries of UNH, and that doesn't seem to be true. So I don't think that's the reason for the pump. The reason for the pump is, I believe, a Goldman Sachs sector upgrade for healthcare. If you look at Humana or CNC, UNH, all those stocks are up. But that might be the reason why that one is running today. Now, AMD, we're going to get AMD after the bell. Let's do the AMD pump or dump poll and see what you guys are thinking about that one. I'm going to go with pump. I do not know AMD's business as well as most of you guys in the chat know it. However, I think China is a tailwind. I think everything that's been going on with the AI summit in regards to different semiconductors that are going to have more demand. Obviously, NVIDIA and AMD are up there based on what Trump said at DC. That's a tailwind. And then obviously, I think that MI 350 chip that Zucks was talking about on the earnings call as becoming one of the crucial elements to AMD's or their ability to scale gigawatt data centers is also pretty bullish. So, I mean, at its core, I don't see a fundamental reason to get bearish going into the earnings call outside of the fact that AMD's run up a lot. I mean, it's had a hell of a move in the past couple of months. And so if their earnings are not perfect, then you might see a little bit of a retracement, which I don't think shareholders would be that upset about. But nonetheless, there are some pretty high expectations. The street wants 48 cents of EPS, and they want 7.43 billion of revenue. And if you're able, or if they're able to kind of bring that momentum into the earnings, then obviously I think that there could be some momentum. Now, the implied move on AMD, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe is 8%. So you should see a move into the 180s or a move below the 170s based on how the street thinks of these earnings. But we should get those results probably 5 minutes after the bell, and then we'll see what goes on from there. You have Arista, A-Lab. Let me know if anyone owns these names. These are the main ones. And also let me know if I'm missing any stocks that have earnings today. AMD, Toast, Lucid, Open Door, Zeta, Anet, A-Lab, Snapchat, Rivn, SMCI. I think SMCI and AMD are kind of the biggest names that you all care about. Zeta has been getting a lot of popularity. Open Door, I'm sure there's some of you guys that care about it. That one's going to be an important one. If Open Door doesn't put up some good numbers, this thing could tank badly. But if they do put up some good numbers, what if it like really has a resurgence back to that $5 range where it topped out at 3 weeks ago? So that is going to be one that I think everyone looks at as well as we get into the earnings. Bitcoin right here, kind of crappy day, 113.4. American Airlines up 3.4%. Again, Open Door up 2%. PayPal down another 0.1%. Tesla, even with the Robotaxi lawsuit, not hurting it that much. That's at 309.77. Coinbase, nasty day, down 7%. Coinbase introduced $2 billion of convertible notes. Street did not like that, along with Bitcoin tanking today. So you got Coinbase, which was at $440. I think it was either Monday of last week. No, it was Monday of last week. Yeah, it was Monday of last week. By Friday, it felt like 340. Now it's at 298. So you talk about a volatile move on Coinbase. Pretty aggressive. AMD right here, 175. Netflix, 1100. That's down 2%. Block's down 1%. Roku's down 2%. DraftKings is down 0.5%. Nike's down 0.5%. Roblox down 3%. I mean, you had a lot of things. Google's down. Apple's down. In the face of all this red, you got Palantir holding 173. And hopefully we get that 173 close. So again, all I'm saying is it's pretty impressive for it to be this green when the entire market, a lot of high beta names are getting chopped off. And that just means, you know, you got a lot of people that are excited for those earnings. Reddit right here as well, down 2%. It was at 205 in the morning as well. Oh, Upstart. We do have Upstart today. Let me put that on our list. That is another big one that we've got in the fintech space. So there's going to be a lot of names. I will try to prioritize AMD, but it might take a couple minutes until we get those results. And then we'll be looking at whatever else we have today. Warren, thanks for the super chat. Just bought 22,000 shares of SMCI at 57.60. Okay, hold on. That's $1 million. Am I tripping? 57.6 times 22. That's 1.2 million. All right. I am really hoping SMCI makes a move for you, brother. Because first of all, it's kind of been trading in a range for the past couple months. I know we got to 62 and it hadn't visited 62 since February. So it had a nice little breakout. I never know with SMCI earnings. They already decreased earnings guidance, so maybe that's not that big of a deal. Obviously, their margins are not the best. But if they can put up a nice little NVIDIA type of quarter, even if they don't have NVIDIA type of margins, should SMCI be above 60? I mean, I don't think that's crazy. Steve, Chris, Matt, a lot of them were interested in this name a couple months ago based on the growth, and then they kind of got out of it. But I don't know if it's enough to take $1 million gamble at 57, but you know, if they end up pulling it off, then I really do hope that one prints for everybody. Adam, thank you for the $20 super chat. By the way, Adam will be on the show tomorrow, guys, or not tomorrow, Thursday. We're going to bring back Theta Thursdays. He wasn't able to do it last week. That's when we do our option selling segment. So Thursday, market open, he'll be with us probably like at 11 a.m. And we'll spend 45 minutes talking to him about selling options. He says, congratulations to all the Palantir heads. You earned this. Shout out to Anet. Best community ever. Adam, thank you for being here. Again, Adam was an OG Palantir investor at $6-7. And although he doesn't have a ton of shares anymore, he is still very much a part of the community and deeply appreciate him being here every single day. S&P looks like it's going to end down about 0.5% on the day. Apple 202.95. That's down about 0.2. Amazon 213, slightly green. And then Tesla basically flat on the day as well at 309. Why is Celsius going down all day? Thank you for the super chat. Honestly, I've not looked at Celsius all day. I don't know. Why is that down 5%? You know, my gut feeling tells me it's something with RFK Jr., but I could be dead wrong on that. So there might be something else here. Don't see any headlines on Celsius. The only headline I see is major shareholders unload millions in Celsius. That might not be insiders. That might be institutional investors that might be taking some profits here. And that could be one of the cascading reasons why it is down 5% of the day. But we'll try to get some understanding on that as well. Snapchat, I swung trade Snapchat last time. I made like $200. Like it really wasn't a successful trade. So I haven't really touched it since then. I have no trades on this earnings. I am just in spirit hoping that AMD goes well for my ETF and for all of you guys because I know you're heavy into it. But let me know if anyone is playing any trades on these companies. I mean, earnings season has been really good, but I feel like with earnings, unless you have like a Palantir type of quarter, you've got to be amazing to get your stock to pump. And even Robinhood, which was amazing, couldn't get their stock to pump. So it's got to be flawless to get some of these names to get up there, especially if they run up, which is kind of the burden on AMD. It's got to be a really good quarter, in my opinion. You definitely got to have a beat on the top and the bottom, and then probably a guidance raise based on the China revenues or any other tailwinds that they're seeing. Maybe partnerships they signed with OpenAI, XAI, et cetera, Meta. But that's going to be very important to see what we have for these earnings today. Alan says, I have 70,000 in AMD leaps. Yeah, I think a lot of you have AMD. I see a bunch of people saying they're in Rivn. Lemonade, by the way, again, did not go through their full earnings, but congratulations to Lemonade Bulls, 30% on the day. Now, the stock was basically at this level in June 15th, so it's kind of getting back to the levels it was at in mid-June. But still, it got depressed since that time frame, and it was down 30%. Now it's up 30%. So for the year, I believe it's up 27%, which is not bad. And they beat on the top and the bottom. So you got Lemonade getting some momentum here as we end out the day. Yeah, I see a lot of people that are in AMD. Nick says, I've still got August call debit spreads on AMD, currently up 150%. Someone said I sold 750 CSPs on Snapchat. I think 750 should be a decent price on Snapchat. Like I mean, that is the, if from the TA that I've seen and a little bit of TA that I did a month ago on Snapchat, like 750 is a pretty good range. Now, granted, when I swung traded, it went below 750 and I had to wait for it to recover to sell. But on earnings, Snapchat tends to dump. Hopefully this is the earnings where they turn the page. We might see some momentum there. Enphase up about 0.5%. Palantir is now a $408 billion company. Again, top 20 company in the United States, holding 7% on the day. Pretty damn incredible. You had a lot of the seeking alpha bears lose their minds this morning. I got notification after notification about how they were wrong. And so you had a lot of these titles come out this morning about being wrong about Palantir. I mean, it was just one of those quarters that was hard to deny. And I think Palantir kind of set the standard for companies that really want an earnings pump after their stock has already run so much and is trading at a high multiple to put up a very good quarter. And I think we're going to have to see that today for some of these names so that they can replicate the quarter. HIMS, by the way, Novo is suing another company. Remember, HIMS got to 63 in the morning. Now it's back down 12%. I mean, you talk about volatile. I was praising HIMS for being so bullish because 15% dip was eaten up. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like the fact that people are willing to buy the dip. And then Novo comes out with some lawsuit. And I believe the lawsuit is, they're suing a bunch of companies for using compounders, all of these names. And as a result, HIMS just went back down because the market is afraid of all the companies that now Novo suing. So yeah, very, very volatile. You would think it was getting some momentum. It's moving on. And then you get a lawsuit that just takes it right down. And that's why the option premiums in HIMS are really good. But you've got to be able to deal with the volatility as it comes through based on any random headline that could affect the stock. Granted, they also missed earnings estimates, which was not the best thing for HIMS. Enphase right here, 31.93. We got about 40 seconds until the market closes. Tesla 308, Amazon 213. All eyes are on AMD. We've got a lot of other companies today as well. Opendoor, Lucid, Toast, Upstart, Zeta, Anet, ALAP, Snapchat, Rivn, SMCI. I am hoping the best for all of these companies. I don't want to see any of them go down, especially for people that own these names. Obviously, AMD is the big one that a lot of retail came together collectively to analyze when it was in the 70s, and it's done very well. And hopefully it can continue its momentum. All right, folks, here we go. 20 seconds until the market closes. I think she's going to do it. I think she's going to give us a $400 billion market cap close. 173.10 on Palantir, up 7.75% on the day. Absolutely incredible stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, Tuesday, August 5th, 4 p.m., Palantir closes at $400 billion in market capitalization. For the first time, the stock market is now closed. All right. She gives us 173.27 on the close, up 7.85% on the day for Palantir. SMCI down 1.67%. Celsius down 5.4%. Lemonade 47.88, up 29.42%. The S&P 500 was up 1.2% yesterday. It's down 0.49% on the day. So a little bit of giving and taking, rather flat over the past week, which is not horrible given we are in August and we're expected to go down. So far, we're at least holding our own. Which is not that bad. We also have some macro stories that we'll talk about as we get into earnings. Tesla right here, 308, basically flat on the day. ServiceNow down about 2%. Oscar was down about 0.18%. CrowdStrike was down 3%. UNH did have a 4.5% day, or 4.15%, so not too bad for UNH. Axon, I still have not gone through their earnings, but they were up 16%, so I guess the earnings were pretty damn good. Figma took a little bit of a dip, down 10%. nasty dip on Figma. That one did go down, and then American Eagle also went down 10% after Trump endorsed it. Yesterday it was up 15%, but that one took a haircut today. Uber as well was up about 2% on the day, 1.18%. Then Costco down about 1.23%. Nvidia ended the day down about 1%, nothing too crazy. Google was pushing 197 in the morning, 194 on the day. Meta was at 780, Meta 763. And then you had Microsoft that ended the day down about 1.4. Microsoft very close to levels that it was at before earnings. So Microsoft pump kind of meaningfully has declined, whereas Meta's pump at least is $60 above where it was right before earnings. All right, here we go. Earnings should be out very soon for all of these companies. I have all of my websites open. We are waiting to see what happens. AMD, I think, is in a couple of minutes. So we'll be looking at what other companies report, but we should be getting these results soon. These are the companies we have on today. Amgen, I didn't add these guys, AMGN, so let me put that on my list. I think the rest of them I pretty much have. And so we will be looking at all of them when they report. 15 minutes. Is it at 4:15? Okay, cool. If it's at 4:15, we have a little bit of time to look at some of these other names. Yeah, I think you are right. It's 4:15. I remember last time it was 4:15, right? Yeah, I think that should be 4:15. That should be 4:15. All right, so we will get that update at 4:15. Open Door, I think, should be relatively soon. That one's going to be big just for kind of the meme stock mania of the market, and see if that one performs. Lucid, that one's flat. Not expecting much from Lucid. Snapchat, you got to move on Snapchat. That's up 1.7. You're getting a little bit of momentum. Wow, Rivn, she goes down. Rivn down 4. Snapchat up 2. None of these candles can really be confirmed yet until we see some of the numbers or see some stability on them. Toast is up about 2%. So you got Toast moving. You got Arista moving a little bit. Snapchat's up 1.3. And then Rivn was down 3. Now it's flat. So you got a lot of numbers going back and forth. SMCI should be like within the next 2 minutes. 405, I think, is usually good for SMCI. Latest 410. SMCI is up 1%. Let me pull up a couple sources and see if we have any numbers coming out yet. Okay, we got Amgen. Amgen 602 versus 528 on EPS. They beat by 14%. Revenue 9.1 versus 8.91 billion. They beat by 3%. Revenue's up 9% year over year. EPS is up 21% year over year. Amgen, $161 billion company. This one is kind of flat. It's not as volatile as a lot of the other names that are on this list. So you got a 0.61% move. Nothing crazy there. And that one is flat. Rivn is tanking. Rivn is down about 4%. Let me see the Rivn numbers. That one seems to be down. Okay, Rivn, wow. They missed EPS by 20 cents, 97 versus 78. That's a 24% miss. Revenue, they beat by 1%, 1.3 versus 1.29. EPS is up 34% year over year. So although they beat EPS year over year, it missed really badly against the estimates. I guess the street thought they had a much more bullish outlook for when they would become profitable. And then revenues beat by 1%. That's not enough to save the stock. Rivn right here is down about 4%. You know, I've talked to many people. I met someone in California back in February who owns a Rivn and really likes like the product. It's just they can't get profitable. And you know, as an automotive company, becoming profitable is very difficult. So Rivn is in that stage where they're trying to figure that out while also balancing the unit economics for the business to make sense. AMD, again, at 4:15. So in about 10 minutes, we'll get the results. Lucid, that's up a little bit. Open Door, that's flat. Snapchat is also flat. Rivn now down 2.4. SMCI got a little bit of a candle, but we are still waiting for some of the other results in order to see what we got. Rivn expects Q3 to be the highest delivery quarter for 2025 for both consumer and commercial vehicles. Now, that makes sense because of the EV credit that's going to be dying out by September 30th. You got Mr. Chad in the chat who also likes his Rivns. And so it makes sense, right? There's a natural tailwind for people to buy Teslas or buy Rivns or any EV car before the EV credit goes away. But, you know, the question is going to be, can that demand sustain itself? Oh my goodness, SMCI. Why is she going down? Whoa, that is a hell of a move. 9% down is ugly. Upstart's up 11%. So Upstart's green, SMCI down, Rivn down 4. Astera Labs, big company. This one up 5%. And Arista, this one also up 2%. Arista, $150 billion company. Astera Labs, $22 billion. SMCI, something's got to be bad. It's not good to see SMCI dump because they're a supplier for NVIDIA. and you never want them to say anything that makes you question what's going on with NVIDIA. If I had to guess why SMCI is dumping, I'm going to try to get the numbers. It's probably their margins. Their margins are just like 11%. It's just not good margins. And so it's hard for them to turn a profit as well. Don't have SMCI numbers, but they're not good. Open Door, where's Open Door? Oh my goodness. The door might start to become closed. 17% on Open Door. She's 15 cents away from going below $2. I don't want to see anyone lose money on this. I do think this has been artificially pumped by one guy on Twitter claiming it'll go to $82. Maybe I'm totally wrong about this, but that is why I think there are some issues with this one. Open Door right here down 11%. SMCI, it's hard to say the red candle on SMCI is fake. Down 3%, 4%. All right, it has a chance to reverse. Down 11%. It could reverse, but that 11% is about to become 12.7%. Just became 13.5%. It continues to dip. Snapchat flat, Rivn down 3, Open Door down 14, Zeta's up 1.7, Arista's up 2.69, SMCI down 11%. I do have some numbers for Arista. Arista beat by 8%, 70 cents versus 65 cents expected. EPS is up 32% year over year. Revenue up 30% year over year. 2.2 billion versus 2.1 billion. Again, Arista, $148 billion company. That is up 5%. Very important in the data center infrastructure space. So not bad for Arista getting some of that momentum. Astera Labs right here, 22 billion. Rivn down 3, and then SMCI still down 11. AMD in 8 minutes. AMD in 8 minutes. We will see what we get. But these are some of the results that you've got right now. Toast. Okay, I think we have Toast. Toast is a big fintech. Oh, hold on. We got SMCI. Let me go to SMCI before Toast. Okay, so SMCI missed on the top and the bottom. This is kind of ugly. 41 cents versus 44 cents. They missed by 7% on EPS. 5.7 versus 5.9 billion. They missed by 3% on revenue. Revenue is only up 8% year over year. Now, this shouldn't be that surprising because SMCI did have preliminary Q2 guidance back when NVIDIA took that $5 billion charge off from the China chips that now they'll be able to sell to China because the export controls are gone. But still, that's a pretty ugly growth quarter. I mean, their margins suck, so the only thing they have is growth, and growth is at 8% year over year. That's not a lot of growth. And then EPS is down 35% year over year. That's not the best. Rivn CEO says export controls on rare earths, heavy metals cause supply chain constraints and higher costs. Company secured export licenses to ship metals out of China. Okay, so you got the Rivn CEO blaming it on tariffs, which, quite frankly, he might have a point, right? It might not just be a scapegoat. So we'll have to go deeper into the earnings to see what's there. But SMCI, kind of ugly. Kind of ugly. This is Upstart. They beat by 44% on EPS. EPS is up 312% year over year. Revenue is up 102% year over year. 36 cents versus 25 cents expected. 257 versus 225. Upstart, I mean, they've had a pretty good string of quarters where they've beat and raised in a fantastic manner. So Upstart getting some decent momentum right there. And then you have Astera Labs right here. They beat by 38%, 44 cents versus 32 cents expected. 191 versus 172. EPS is up 238% year over year. Revenue's up 150%, which is not too bad for them. AMD, again, no movement yet. In about 6 minutes, we'll get that answer. SMCI from 12% to 9%, a little bit of a recovery. Rivn down 3. Snapchat is flat. That number should be out soon. I'm not sure why we don't have a Snapchat move yet. Zeta's up 3. Don't have their numbers yet, but I will try to get that in a second as well. And we'll see what we've got. Let's put NVIDIA on the list. NVIDIA and AMD will be important. Let's also put Broadcom on the list to see how that one does after AMD. NVIDIA slightly down after hours. Broadcom up a little bit. AMD still flat. Toast is up 7%. Okay, not bad. Looks like they have good numbers. Upstart's now tanking. Bro, this shit was up 15%. I just gave them so much praise about beating and raising every quarter. Why? They make me look stupid, bro. This like stocks will make you look so stupid. I was like, yeah, Upstart, great job beating on the top of the, but now they're down 10%. Like, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Snapchat. Of course. Why not? It is literally a holiday every 90 days for this stock to fall back to 850. I mean, it's a literal holiday. A literal holiday. It's something you have to celebrate 4 times a year. Snapchat down 9%. Of course, let's see what Evan Spiegel said. And let's see why this one's tanking because, Evan Spiegel cares a lot about shareholders. So I'm sure he gave us some reason to be excited about this. Goodness gracious. So Upstart reverses a 15% move. something in that call the analysts fall, or in that print the analysts found that's not in the headline numbers that makes them bearish. Opendoor only down 11% is not crazy. I'll try to get Opendoor's results in a second. Zeta's up 3, SMCI down 10, and then Snapchat, the worst of it, down 12%. 826. Wow, Snapchat missed on the top and the bottom. Oh my goodness. I'll get Opendoor in a second. Snapchat 16 cents versus 15 cents expected. Negative, missed by 7%. And then revenue, they missed by about 50 million, but you can't be missing on your targets when you've had, basically call it 2 years in a row, 8 quarters of just horrendous performance from Snapchat as a business. Forget the stock. EPS down 7% year over year. Revenues up 9% year over year. I mean, why is this company worth what it's worth today? I guess it's not. And that's why the stock is now down 14%. You would think 750 safe on Snapchat is 50 cents away from seeing 750. I learned my lesson last time trying to day trade this on earnings. It's just the earnings really don't surprise to the upside when it comes to this name. Toast is still up 6%. SMCI down 10. We got a lot of red, folks. AMD's got to be the one to save us. In 3 minutes, we'll see what we have on AMD. And Opendoor is down 9%. Let me see if I can get some coverage on Opendoor. I don't have the numbers. They've got to be out. All right, here we go. Opendoor missed by 33% on EPS, 4 cents of a loss versus 3 cents. And then they beat by 4% on revenue, 1.5 versus 1.56 versus 1.5. EPS is up 70% year over year. Revenue is up 4% year over year. I mean, $82 for 4% revenue growth. It's a little hard to see. Now, granted, they're a couple cents away from profitability, but if you ever looked under the hood on Opendoor margins, it's not good. It's really not good. So when do they get that profitability? I don't know, but 4% year over year revenue growth, it's hard to see a massive multiple being attached to it, even if you get rate cuts, which is everyone says that's a bull case, but like how much does that really impact the business to the upside? Snapchat now is down 15%, SMCI still down 10, and then Rivn down 4. Rivn down 4. All right, AMD, here we go. This is the moment. 76% of you said pump on AMD. I have a ETF in my stock draft that I do on this channel with a couple friends. AMD is up 40% in that ETF. AMD going up would be great for the ETF. AMD going down would suck, but nonetheless, I understand if AMD goes down because it had a hell of a month. I really want this thing to go up because a lot of you guys are in this one, even if I have no financial benefit from this. So let's see in about 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, we should be seeing what Lisa Su gives us. Again, the street is expecting 48 cents of EPS, 7.43 billion. 48 cents and 7.43 billion is what she's got to beat for this one to save a little bit of the red that we are having after hours. Real quick, let's get Snapchat right before that, and we should get AMD in about 30 seconds.
Daily active users grew 2 million faster than anticipated to end at 469 million, and third quarter guidance was ahead of estimates. The company guiding to revenue in a range of 1.475 to 1.5 billion. The bottom end of that range is what analysts had anticipated. And the midpoint of the company's guidance for third quarter EBITDA is 122.5 million. That is ahead of estimates of 116 million. But looking at that stock trading lower, the company did say that its top line growth in the quarter was impacted by a number of factors, including an issue related to its ad platform. Investors seem concerned.
What issue could they have on their ad platform? They've been doing this for 15 years. Like, are they talking about a technical issue? Are they talking about a demand issue? Because they should know how to run ads by now. I mean, this company's been around for a while. So that's going to be an interesting one for analysts to kind of see what exactly is going on with them. All right, 4:15 AMD. Let's see. We have a little bit of a green candle. Oh, she's green. She's moving. Can she get to 3%? Can we solidify this is a meaningful candle? 2%, 2.4, 2.7. I'll get the numbers in a second. I want to see if this candle can hold. 1.8. Oh, the candle's dying out. The candle's dying out. No, don't go that way. Don't go that way. She's going that way. She's going that way. She's going down 1.4. All right, we were not able to get up 3%. It topped out at 2.7. Now it's red. Now it's going back green. Now it's coming back 1.6, 1.7, 2.4, 2.3, 179.06, 174.48, 0.64. All right, it's looking like it's kind of flattish. It wants to go green, but there was some number that just came out and maybe got the street to think twice before they gave it the candle. AMD, EPS comes in line. Revenue beats by 3%. EPS comes in line, 48 cents a share. Revenue beat by 3%, 7.68 billion versus 7.43. It's not a massive quarter. It's not a massive beat. We'll get the guidance in a second, but it's definitely not enough where I would say, all right, take this thing up 20%. I wouldn't say take it down 20% either, but I can understand why the street's a little like, okay, whatever. I could see it going up. I could see it going down too. Not that far down and not that far up. So the question is, how much does the street want to give it in terms of momentum? It's at 2.3% right here. They didn't beat on EPS, which is not that big of a deal, but given they ran up so much, you would expect them to. Up 2% right here. It's not a double beat. It is a beat on revenue, and the revenue beat is very inconsequential by 3%, just nothing too crazy. All right, that's the numbers you got. Let's see if we can get some more coverage on this. The guidance is going to be very important to see what they guided for Q3. That could be giving you a better understanding of what we've got going on. Let me pull up a couple things right here. AMD trying to hold on to 2%. Trying to hold on to 2. They usually double beat. EPS is always better than expected for them. Well, what I'm looking at is EPS came in at 48 cents, which was what was expected. So you're not seeing a lot. Or did I get the wrong number? It looks like, no, it looks like 48 cents. Let me make sure. Let me make sure on AMD. Is it 48 cents or is it 54 cents? Okay, so some websites have 40 cents of expectations, so it technically is a double beat. Other websites have 48 cents. I mean, if we're going to use the 40 cents, then there you go. There is a double beat. Now, granted, is a massive beat? Not really. But it's still holding up 2%. Question is this enough of a beat for it to get higher? So revenue did beat by about 300 million. EPS, it looks like if you're using, again, different websites have different EPS targets. So the one I was using said 48 cents. This one's using 40 cents. So then you can classify it as a double beat. Is it a fantastic, phenomenal quarter based on an 8-cent beat on EPS? I mean, probably not, just objectively. But the stock has also gone up a lot. So does it need to be that massive for the stock to go higher? Maybe. Does it need to go lower because it's not that phenomenal? I don't think so. I don't think so. All right. So you still have a double beat then. You technically do have a double beat. I mean, you can't discount the double beat. It's just if we're looking for 190 or something after hours, it might not be that easy to get based on the quality of the double beat. AMD right there up about 1.8%. Let's see if I can get some more numbers on these guys. The guidance is what I'm looking. Do they even give guidance? I think on the call, AMD gives guidance. Probably we're not going to get it before the call. Yeah, see, look, another website says 48 cents. 2 websites are looking at 48 cents, not 40 cents of EPS. So it's hard for me to say it's an objective double beat. I'll try to get the actual. Let me see what Seeking Alpha has. They tend to be a little bit more accurate. AMD, their expectations were 48 cents. That's a third website that's saying, no, we expected 48 cents, which means it's not really a massive beat, even if it was 40 cents. So you got 3 websites saying 48 cents was expected. 48 cents is what came in line. 1.3% now on AMD. Rivn's down 5. SMCI's down 11. Snapchat's down 14. A-Lab's up 14. Arista's up 13. Zeta's up 5. Open Door's down 15. Lucid is down 6. Toast is up 3. And AMD, again, trying to hold that 1% move. That 1% move. Okay, we got one comment here. I will try to double check this, but AMD expects revenue to be approximately 8.7 billion plus or minus 300 million. So they're assuming 8.7 to 9 billion of guidance. Let me double check that. And let's check the growth rate on that. Yeah. Okay. So guidance is 8.4 to 9 billion is what I'm looking at. Gross margins 54%. The estimates was 8.37. Okay. So they guided for Q3 revenue to be almost, well, I mean, either 30 to, I mean, look, so it's not horrible, right? So they guided for 8.37, or the estimate was 8.37. They're guiding for 8.4 to 9, which is not horrible. Data center revenue in Q2 was up 14% year over year. Client and gaming was up 69% year over year. And then embedded was down 4% year over year. Now, data center only being up 14% year over year is a bit of an issue to me. I'm not sure why that is growing less than 20%. Now, I know I listened to the call last quarter, and I remember she said Q2 there would be some headwinds. So maybe that's a Q2 thing. AMD basically flat after hours right here. They did beat the midpoint of their Q3 guide. Instead of 8.37, they came in at 8.4. So even if they were at the lowest point of their Q3 guide, they would beat expectations. At the high point, they're at 9 billion. Let's assume they beat, and they get to like 9.1 billion. So they are going to beat, or at least it seems likely for them to beat. But the street already knew that. Data center revenue is at 14%. Again, that's good. It's not NVIDIA level growth, but it is decent. It is decent for the size of the company that they're at. And Q2 revenues were already guided to not be the best on data centers based on a variety of headwinds. So if that changes for Q3, that's going to be very important as well. AMD up 0.81%. 0.81%. Astera is up 15. Rivn's down 4. SMCI is down 13. Then Snapchat down 14 as well. SMCI, yeah, that one continues to get hit. I mean, if you miss on the top and the bottom, that's not the best. SMCI is dumping because they missed on the top and the bottom. Where's NVIDIA? NVIDIA's 0.2. All right, so NVIDIA's basically flat, not really affected. Current outlook on AMD does not include revenue from the MI308 shipments to China. Yeah, that makes sense. They probably can't guide for the China revenue yet because they're probably still working out the export controls, and you're likely not going to see that meaningfully factored into their guidance. But remember when AMD pumped up to like 179 2 weeks ago? It was because of a Reuters article that said that they have pricing power to the point where they will increase the price from 9,000 to like 15,000 a chip. From like 15,000 to 25,000, and that'll increase their EPS estimates from 9 billion to 15 billion. And as a result, the multiples, tended to go higher. And that's when AMD broke 182 that day. But that factored in China. So if AMD is not giving us China yet, then that is one of those tailwinds that maybe is on the way for AMD. Let's get a little bit more coverage here and try to understand what's going on in the quarter. And then we will keep going from there.
Higher. Christina Partsinevelos has those numbers. Christina?
Yeah, the earnings per share for AMD came in light at 48 cents adjusted, the first miss since November 2022.
Okay, so CNBC is saying they missed. 3 websites said expect 48 cents. 1 website said expect 40 cents. CNBC saying expectations were 49 cents. So, I mean, it's really not an objective beat on EPS, which is why I think also the shares are struggling a little bit.
Specifically for EPS, but revenues did grow 32% year over year, driven by data center revenue and client revenue. Both of those categories falling in line with estimates. I should point out that revenue for the quarter came in at $7.7 billion. CEO Lisa Su saying, quote, they're still well positioned to deliver significant growth in the second half of the year, driven by the ramp of our AMD Instinct MI350 series accelerators, which is just the next AI iteration for their GPUs. Gross margins for the quarter coming in at 43%. Keep in mind they were impacted by U.S. government restrictions on chips to China. For their outlook, Q3, they expect margins to increase to 54%, which is in line with estimates. Q3 revenue coming in at $8.7 billion. And I think that is the reason why you're seeing shares marginally higher, because the whisper number I was seeing in some buy-side reports was $8.5 billion. But a lot will be riding on the second half demand of the next core GPU chips that they're launching. John?
All right. Yeah, so we want to hear as much from Lisa Su as possible.
All right, AMD now going red. Look, if you are heavy in AMD, you should not feel bad about this quarter because these numbers are great numbers. They're just not phenomenal numbers, which is why the stock is not really pumping. But second of all, the stock went from 78 to 180. It's at 170 now. Like you just can't be that mad at yourself around the performance of the stock, because at the end of the day, it had a massive move, more than a double from the lows in the past 3 months. I mean, you got a quarter where if you can even hold these multiples, that's good. That's great, especially in a macro environment that's a bit uncertain based on the labor report that we got, where no one knows exactly what's going to happen with the Fed in regards to interest rates and if the labor market will continue to weaken. So the fact that AMD is holding this is not horrible, although it is getting hit after hours, down about 3.2%. Down about 3.2%. SMCI, though, my goodness, street's not happy. 15% down. NVIDIA's down about 1% on AMD and SMCI. Broadcom should also be down. No, Broadcom's actually up. Well, it was up more. Now it's starting to fall. Toast is now down 4. Dude, everything that went green is going red. The only 2 that are surviving are Arista and ALAB and Zeta, but Zeta is about 20 cents away from going red. It was up 5%. I mean, it is a bloodbath after hours. Upstart was up 15, down 13. AMD was up 4, now it's down 3.7. Toast was up 6, now it's down 3. Lucid, I think it was up 2, now it's down 7. Snapchat, this one never even saw what it means to be green after hours. This one's down 14. Rivn's down 4, and then SMCI almost down 17%. It's a bit ugly. It's a bit ugly. Let me get Zeta's numbers and see what they did. Then we'll get deeper into AMD coverage again. We will be streaming the call in about in about 35 minutes. By the way, Amazon just bought 800,000 shares of IONQ, the quantum computing stock. IONQ is up 5% after hours. Wow. Amazon just bought 800,000 shares of a quantum computing company. Holy crap. We actually have some more. Okay, so 116 million in AMD, 25 million in Astera, 40 million in IONQ, 17 million in Marvell. They've already had the Rivn investment. That's been a while. And then the other companies I'm not that familiar with. But the main ones that you see on the screen, AMD, Astera, IONQ, and Marvell. IONQ now pumping up 7%. Just got an investment from Amazon. Dude, I mean, is that Jassy saying, hey, quantum's real and it's not a joke? And it's actually like going to be a thing and we want to be positioned for it if it happens? I mean, yeah, Amazon's 13. Oh, we are getting very close to 13F season, folks. We are getting very close. That should be in like, I think 3 weeks, maybe less than that. We should be getting new 13Fs. Yeah, last time was in April. So it should literally be in a couple weeks. So we're going to see what a lot of the big guys brought. And that's why we're seeing these Amazon 13Fs come out. Let me see the other quantum names after hours. QBTS, that one's up 5% because IONQ's pumping. Rigetti is probably up. Rigetti is also up 4%. All the quantum names are pumping based on that investment by Amazon, which is not a small name, into IONQ. AMD is still down 3.4. Is still down 3.4. Amazon buys, I think Amazon already had some AMD, so they probably added to that investment. I don't think it's a brand new investment. But IONQ is a new investment. And I think they bought a little bit of A-Lab as well, which also, in my opinion, seems to be a new investment if I'm not wrong. Yeah, let me pull up the exact stats on Amazon and then we'll try to get some more coverage on AMD. Wow, this is pretty incredible. Here are the positions. A-Lab, AMD, IONQ, those are the main ones that they disclosed. And then you have the other companies that's there. Owlet is also new. And then they have Marvell. I think they already had some Marvell, but they added some more to Marvell. Okay, maybe Marvell is getting a little bit after hours. Let's see that. Marvell is flat. That one's flat. AMD is kind of taking down all the semis. AMD still not really recovering. Down even worse. Down 4%. Down worse. Open Door dumping. I still don't have. Oh no, we looked at the Open Door results. They grew 4% year over year. Open Door down 30. I mean, look, it's holding above $2. I'll give that to Open Door. It's holding above $2. But I don't know what the shareholders expected from Open Door. It is not that massive monster quarter that I think people were looking for. Zeta. Okay, let me get the results on Zeta. Let me see what we got there. Zeta, again, is a marketing analytics platform, if I'm not wrong. Revenue is up 35% year over year, $308 million. They beat guidance by $11 million. Net cash is $42 million. They ended 2Q with zero net dilution. Wow, they approved a $100 million share buyback back in 2024. They used $85 million of it. And they approved another $200 million share purchase program. And they increased their adjusted EBITDA and free cash flow guidance more than the expectations against second quarter. Zeta was up 5%. Now this stock is up 2.7, market cap of $3.7 billion. Not really a small cap, but definitely not a large cap company either. Okay, so that's what you have on Zeta. AMD, I'm going to bring up the investor deck in a second. Let's see if we can get a bit deeper into some of these results that we have with AMD. While I'm doing that, let's just quickly head over to the Rivn CEO and get a couple thoughts from him on this quarter, and then we'll get back into AMD.
Rare earth metals being controlled in terms of exports out of China, and that had a big, a very significant impact on overall production volume. And related to that, we saw the overall supply chain endure a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty. And we felt that a number of constrained suppliers actually led to our production going from Q1 of over 14,000 units to Q2 around 6,000 units. And
all right, so definitely the tariffs having an impact on Rivn. You really can't even blame Rivn there. It's just hard to be a car company, especially an electric car company, and be profitable. So a lot of people like their product. It's just going to take them some time to get the unit economics to make sense. Here we go. AMD. Let's dive deep into it. Dr. Lisa Su, we delivered strong revenue growth in the second quarter led by record server and PC processor sales. We are seeing robust demand across our computing and AI product portfolio and are well positioned to deliver significant growth in the second half of the year, driven by the ramp up of our AMD Instinct MI350 series accelerators and ongoing EPYC and Ryzen processor share gains. We achieved 32% year-over-year revenue growth and generated record free cash flow this quarter, reflecting our disciplined execution, said the CFO. Our strategic investments across hardware, software, and systems position us well to support robust future growth and drive long-term shareholder value. AMD after hours, that stock, wow, it's down 5.5. I don't think the quarter was that bad to give it down 5.5, but it ran up a lot into the print, and it just wasn't an objectively phenomenal quarter, which is why that one's getting hit. Revenue is up 32% year over year. Gross profits up 7%. Gross margin is down 9% year over year. Or sorry, not 9%, 9 points. Operating expense up 23% year over year. Operating income down 150% year over year. Operating margin down 7 points. I think they guided for the op margins to not be the best, so that shouldn't be that much of a surprise. But that obviously is why they didn't beat on EPS if their operating margins are, going down year over year. Net income's up 229% from 265 million to 872. So you do have some bottom line growth. And then you got EPS right there at 48 cents, which is what we're looking at right here. Data center segment revenue was 3.2 billion, up 14% year over year. Client and gaming was 3.6, up 70% year over year. Embedded segment was down 4% year over year. And then they have some strategic partnerships that they announced over the past 3 months that they're kind of highlighting on the call right here. I mean, outside of operating margins getting hit, revenue growth is phenomenal. EPS growth is phenomenal. At least year over year, obviously against the expectations, it's a bit light. But I would not say this is a horrible quarter. It's just not NVIDIA. But that doesn't mean it's horrible. And, the thesis on AMD is not that it's NVIDIA. It's that one day it can become a $1 trillion company through inference. That's just going to take time to play out. And this is not the quarter where you're seeing some massive, 50, 60% growth to be able to get there. And definitely not on the bottom line side from an operating margins perspective. But it's not a bad quarter. It's just a stock that ran up a lot. I mean, I don't think anyone should be confused with this being a bad quarter. Now, Snapchat, that's a bad quarter. And that's down 14%. 14% data center is not enough. Okay, so it's for the AMD bulls, to educate me on this as well. I'm seeing that top line number. I'm thinking, okay, that's not that good when I see NVIDIA growing like data center revenues at like 70%. But also the street knew that, right? So, I mean, what is your perspective on that as an AMD bull? Is 14% acceptable for data centers when that is the major part of their business? Or is that a Q2 phenomena? And Q3, we should likely see data centers ramp up closer to 20%. Again, I'm not the most educated on AMD, but as an objective third party that just has no financial stake, when I see 14% data center revenue growth, it's not the most exciting. Doesn't mean there's any massive bear case to AMD. It's just that quarter alone is not really exciting when you got NVIDIA that's growing at like 70%. Now, granted, NVIDIA is at $4 trillion. I get it. But that is not the best. That was before the recent price increases. Okay, so maybe that's more of a Q2 issue. That's also not including China, right? I'm assuming there's a ton of China revenue coming into data centers, which will be beneficial. The price increase will be 70% following June 30th. So Q3, Q4 should be better. That's fair. That makes a lot of sense. And hopefully that accelerates that data center revenue to be much stronger. No one cares about this quarter. I remember explicitly listening to the call in Q1. Some of you guys were with me on the channel. And I remember Lisa Su saying, the stock took a good 3% hit when she said this, but she said Q2 is not going to be that good in terms of top line revenue growth, and we're going to have decreased margins across the board. So I explicitly remember her guiding for this, which is why I'm surprised the street is this upset that they're taking it down 5% after hours, but it is what it is. This is also kind of how Wall Street operates at the end of the day. That's what we got on AMD. Let's get a couple of other of these earnings here and see what else we got. Here's Amgen. Let's look at this one real quick, and then we'll keep going from there.
Peebles has the numbers. Hi, Angelica. Hey, Morgan. Well, Amgen beating on the top and bottom line. Adjusted EPS coming in at $6.02 a share, versus the 529 that the street was looking for. Revenue also coming in ahead, $9.18 billion versus the $8.94 billion estimate. Some of the highlights here: osteoporosis drug Prolio at revenues, those met expectations. That drug's now facing biosimilar competition in the U.S. Some other highlights: rare disease, cancer drugs. There was some weakness in inflammation, excluding their drug Otezla. And on the rest of the year, it's a mixed forecast for the full year. They're slightly increasing the full year revenue estimates. They now expect $35 to $36 billion.
And this stock is flat after hours. So you got a beat on the top and the bottom, a little bit of a guidance raise, but nothing crazy on Amgen. This is one of the first days of earnings, folks, where I've felt companies are not doing as well. Like this, outside of like a handful of companies. Now, granted, some of these are not the most quality companies. Like Open Doors down 17%. Do I really think there's a bear case for the broader market if Open Doors down 17%? Not really. Rivn, they've got a lot of issues with tariffs. Snapchat is Snapchat. And then SMCI, that one is a bit surprising. But this is one of the first earnings where you got where even if the earnings were good, and we'll see what the aggregate looks like tomorrow when we factor it in with all the other companies that reported, you do have a lot of red. And a lot of these companies are not in the S&P 500 either. So a lot of these companies, although they have some impact on the market, they're not going to be sort of major headwinds for the broader S&P. Upstart seems like there's not an issue. Revenue, $280 million they're expecting for third quarter. That beats guidance. Adjusted EBITDA, $53 million. They originated 372,000 loans. GAAP net income had $5.6 million. They're profitable. Last year, the same time, they lost $50 million. Now they're profitable by $5 million. I mean, Upstart doesn't look crazy. CEO says, a year ago, you saw the first signs that Upstart was returning to growth mode, and today you see it in full bloom. In addition to achieving triple-digit revenue growth, we achieved GAAP profitability a quarter sooner than expected, and now our newer businesses actually accelerated off their amazing growth in the first quarter. I think that's why this thing was up basically 12% as soon as the market closed. But I guess there was something the street did not like. Upstart is now down 14% on the day. Upstart is an AI lending platform. So they do loans, but they are moat, quote unquote, is they use AI to underwrite the loans. I know that doesn't sound like a moat because a lot of these companies use AI to underwrite the lending process, but that is at least my elementary understanding of the core thesis on Upstart. Amgen right here is now down after hours. Nvidia's down a little bit. AMD still down 4. It was down 6, so that one's recovering a little bit. Anet and Arista ended up having a decent earnings, and their stock prices are reciprocating. Snapchat still down 15, and then Rivn is down 4%. That's what you got. That's what you got in terms of the red. Again, 71% of you said pump on AMD, 29% said dump. Regardless of this thing, I don't think a 4% is really a dump, but obviously it's red. I don't think anyone should be that upset. And maybe Lisa Su says something on the call around Q3, particularly around China revenues, that could get this thing to turn around. But again, it's just hard to be upset with AMD, performing the way it's performed over the past couple months. Okay, so Trump should be live signing executive orders as well. Let me see if he's live there. We will be having the call on AMD in about 20 minutes, and we'll see what's happening. I don't know what executive orders Trump is signing today. He's speaking on the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. Okay, so that shouldn't be that big of a deal. That shouldn't be that crazy. Anduril co-founder is on CNBC. Let's see what he's saying. This is going to be the hottest IPO of 2026 if it happens. So let's get some of his thoughts, and then we will get ready for this AMD call.
On that stool of building up that supply chain and production capacity that our customer needs to be able to supply to the demands of the warfighter.
Okay, you mentioned Palantir. You're an early employee there. Palantir and SpaceX arguably helped pave the pathway for the Andurils of the world and some of the other defense tech startups to now exist and to be able to get a toehold in with the Pentagon. So I do want to get your thoughts on what we are seeing from Palantir post-earnings.
I mean, I couldn't be happier. I would be nowhere in my career if it weren't for all the learnings that I got from Dr. Karp and Sham and others at Palantir. Crossing the $1 billion in a quarter revenue mark is an incredible accomplishment for them. I'd like to claim, 0.001% of that success as being something that maybe I contributed in my 6 years at the company. I saw that Dr. Karp said, read them and weep to the numbers that they're posting. I'm pretty sure that's similar to something that I said to him the first time I closed a $100,000 contract. So they're a lot further along than they were when I was there many, many years ago.
I mean, Palantir is one of these early use cases of AI taking root in certain industries right now and seeing those returns be realized. You're also in this unique position at Founders Fund as an investor there to be investing on the front lines of this AI revolution. Do you think 2025 is the turning point in terms of realizing that return on investment across more industries and in the application layer?
Lucid misses by 9% on EPS and misses by 2% on revenue. So you got Lucid with a double miss. That's why that stock is down about 7%.
I think it's certainly getting there. We're seeing that turn, as you said, from early research and using LLMs mostly as a consumer product to figuring out ways that they can be leveraged not only in startups and technology companies, but also in these legacy industries. Defense has always been kind of an early customer of new technologies. AI is no exception. The Pentagon has been working on these programs for a very, very long time. We're starting to see a resurgence in the interest of the big tech companies to come in and work alongside the Pentagon in delivering these critical capabilities to the warfighter. This goes along with Anduril as well. We recently announced a partnership with Meta for the augmented reality platform that used to be called IVAS, where our approach to that we're calling Eagle Eye. And we're also partnering with some of the large foundational model companies as well as we approach some of these new problems in command and control and in autonomy.
Okay, Trey Stevens, thank you for joining me.
All right, so one of the early Palantir employees giving some praises to the first billion-dollar quarter on Palantir. LEU, Centrus Energy. I don't know if these guys had earnings today. I will check, but they're up 4% after hours. This is one of the energy stocks that's been talked about for the past couple of months as well in regards to the energy demand that is now growing in society. By the way, Oklo again had momentum today. In the morning, it was up 10%. Oklo ended the day up 10%, 84. Stock was $5 in September last year. So pretty incredible stuff in regards to energy. Toast is down 3%. Let me pull up Toast's numbers. They beat by 18% on EPS, 13 cents versus 11 cents expected. They beat by 2%, 1.55 billion versus 1.52 billion on revenue. Revenue is up 25% year over year. EPS is up 550% year over year. So not sure exactly why Toast is getting hit. It was down 3% during the day, down almost 3% after hours. It did have a move to 51. And then just like a lot of other stocks today, you had a little bit of a green candle and then you get hit. AMD right here down about 4.29%. Now, when you see stocks on earnings almost unilaterally go up and then go right down on the same day, it's kind of also a macro thing. Like there's not enough juice in the macro unless the quarter is damn near perfection, which is kind of what we saw yesterday with Palantir, for the stock to hold its momentum. And I think you're seeing that across the board today on a lot of these names. Obviously, some of these names just didn't have good earnings like Rivn, SMCI, and Snapchat. But that's also contributing to some of the pain. SMCI right here still down 15% after hours. Let me get into SMCI's website and go a little bit deeper as well and see what SMCI has going on. Again, missing on the top and the bottom, not the best. Okay, here you go. This is SMCI results. We got AMD Call in about 15 minutes. So Supermicro net sales of 5.8 billion versus 4.6 in Q3 or the previous quarter. Gross margin of 9.5%. That was 10% 2 quarters ago. That's just not the best margin improvement. It's a deacceleration of margin. Net income of 195 million versus 109. CEO says we made solid progress in fiscal year 2025 by growing our AI solution leadership, which fueled our 47% annual growth. I'm especially excited about our new data center building block solutions, which offered exceptional value to customers seeking faster data center deployment and time to online advantage. With support from our expanding global operations that help mitigate tariffs and regional costs, combined with the growing enterprise customer base, AI product innovations, we're on track to grow even more larger scale data center customers. And that's it. Then you got the balance. Okay, so then you have all the numbers, but not really much from the company outside of, hey, we're growing for the year and we're excited for our growth. They're not really addressing any of the margin stuff that got hit head on in the first statement. They'll likely talk about it on the call. But there's nothing that exciting there. Gross margin is going from 11% to 10.5 to 9.5. You got an issue there. SMCI does a lot of business, but they don't make a lot of money off the bat. And by the way, Dell has the same issue. Now, Dell has, a lot of other diversified parts of their business, but they have like basically 0% operating margins on the servers in particular. And that started to get better. But, gross margins on SMCI are not that good in this particular business. A-Lab right here is up 8%. Snapchat, we'll pull up their quarter and see what Snapchat said, as they are down 15%. 15% for SnappyChat. Are lower margins bullish for NVIDIA? No, it really has nothing to do for NVIDIA. It's about the server rack business from a structural perspective, to my understanding of it. And it's just hard to make money there. It's not NVIDIA pricing them out or anything. It's more so just, hey, these things are expensive and there's not a great margin there. So that's the reason I was in SMCI. I got out at 42. I bought at 34. So I made like $3,000 on it a while ago. But I never got back in, because also the Ernst & Young leaving and their books being cooked as a concern was a bit of an issue. But second of all, it's like there's just not margins. There's just not margins. Okay, Q2 on Snapchat. Q2 on Snapchat. I don't see the Centrus Energy numbers here yet. It's not popping up. Oh, here we go. We got it. Okay, so Centrus Energy, let's look at this real quick. Revenue 154 versus 130. That's a beat. EPS 159 versus 84 cents. That's a beat. I think that stock should be green after hours on those beats. That stock's up 10%. There you go. That stock's up 10%. So net income, 30 million. Gross profit, 54 million. Cash balance, they have almost $1 billion in cash. Wow, market cap's $4 billion. They have almost $1 billion in cash. Almost 25% of the market cap in cash. Not crazy as of June 30th. Free cash flow, 114 million. And then beating on the top and the bottom. CFO said we delivered another strong quarter. The DOE's extension signals confidence in our tech and operational readiness. The DOE's Department of Energy. And then said Centrus is positioned as the US-based enrichment alternative in a market long dominated by foreign state-owned players. That is what you got from Centrus Energy. This is another nuclear play as well. It's not exactly like a Oklo or a SMR or a nano nuclear, but it's in that nuclear ecosystem. All right, that's green. If you own this one, that is up 10% after hours. Going back to Snapchat, revenue 9% year over year, 1.3 billion. MAU 932 million. Wow, they have almost 1 billion people using Snapchat a month. Let me know in the chat if anyone uses Snapchat. DAUs almost 500 million, 469. That's up 9% year over year. CEO Evan Spiegel says our global community continued to grow in Q2, reaching 932 million monthly active users with meaningful inventory and conversions growth this quarter, including the broader rollout of sponsored snaps. We're excited about the opportunity to translate improved advertiser performance into top line acceleration. They still lost 263 million. This company went public when I was a sophomore in college. I was literally in the library, Alexander Library, Rutgers, New Brunswick, when they went public at like 17 a share or something. It pumped to 23 that day. And then it's just been a mess since then. So they really just have not been able to deliver shareholder value. Free cash flow, 24 million, operating cash flow at 88 million. But they have almost 1 billion monthly active users. Again, the problem with Snapchat is a lot of people that are using it are teenagers, and teenagers don't have a ton of money. So with Facebook, you have adults that have the money to be able to spend when they see an ad. With Snapchat, it's a lot of brand advertising. It's like, hey, here's a Mountain Dew ad, but Mountain Dew is not going to pay as much for brand awareness as Dyson will pay for conversions on buying vacuums, right? Because they actually get an ROI when you buy the product. So performance metrics are not as rooted in the advertising culture of Snapchat, but that's also why the stock is nowhere near compared to what Meta is doing. IONQ still up 2% after hours again, after Amazon disclosed a 800,000 share stake in the company, solidifying a little bit of momentum for Quantum. And that's what you got on Snapchat. Yeah, I'm definitely not young enough. I remember I was at my mom's friend's house and their kids are like in 9th grade. And I asked them what social media do you use? And they're like, Snapchat. I was like, really? Snapchat? They're like, we're on Snapchat all day. And I was like, Instagram? They're like, we use Snapchat more than Instagram. I'm like, what? So it really is a younger thing, but 9th graders in high school don't have a lot of money. So it's like your demographic is broke. It's hard to really monetize off of that in an advertising business when advertisers want to see results. AMD, are we coming back a little bit on AMD? AMD, all right, it was down 165. It hit 164. Now it's at 169. It's down 2.5. The call will be happening in 10 minutes. But it's still relatively red on the day. The Amazon position on IONQ is not new. They actually reduced the position from 1.9 million shares. Okay, so if that's true, actually bearish on IONQ. I mean, it's good that they bought it, but I have not kept up with Amazon's 13F. So if they actually reduce this position from 1.9 million to 890,000, that means they took some profits. Having said that, the street probably, when I mean the street, I mean the collective market participants probably didn't know that Amazon had a stake already, because all the quantum names were pumping after hours, not because of any earnings, likely because of Amazon takes a stake in IONQ as the headline. But if the headline's actually they're selling some of their stake, not necessarily bearish, but definitely not the most bullish either. So we're Getty right here. Now, AMD, I've known they've had for a while. So AMD makes sense that they've had AMD. But looks like they're taking some profits on that one. Does anyone know their average price on IONQ? Because this one has rallied in the past couple of months. Rigetti still up after hours along with D-Wave. Rigetti right here up about 0.5%. Ethereum and Bitcoin after hours. Is that one moving? I don't think we're seeing much there. Ethereum 35.79. And then you had Bitcoin kind of stuck 113.5. 130.19 average. Okay, so they took some profits. That is what it is. The fact that they even own a quantum stock in their portfolio, to me, is bullish regardless of them taking profits. But you probably had a lot of people thinking they just initiated the position today. Open Door still down 14. SMCI is dumping because their margins came down and they missed on the top and the bottom. But Open Door is down. Open Door did beat on revenue. They missed on EPS. So you do have a beat on revenue on Open Door, but you have a miss on EPS. Trump says we'll make determination on sanctions on countries that purchase Russian energy after Wednesday's meeting with Russia. Okay, so there was some news on Russia that was reported today. And the idea was that Putin is considering giving Trump a concession, per Bloomberg, including a potential air truce with Ukraine. Trump has wanted a concession from Putin for the past 5 months. Putin has continued to strike Ukraine, and it's really pissed off Trump because he thought he was getting close to a deal, and every time they get close, Putin ends up continuing to attack. So, I mean, that could be relatively bullish for the war to at least come to somewhat of a ceasefire. And then probably Putin doesn't want to be get the crap sanctioned out of him again, and he doesn't want countries like India to get sanctioned because they buy Russian oil. So you might have that external incentive. IONQ still up 4% after hours to maybe get a deal done with Russia. Potentially. Why do you say Putin like that? What do you mean? That's how you say Putin. What like how else do you say Putin? It's Putin. Like there's no way you guys can get me on saying Putin wrong. It's Putin. Like where else? I mean, like, do you say the tin of poo? Like it's Putin. Like it's Putin. I don't see what's the issue. Trump is live. Let's go to him, and then we've got the call in about 5 minutes.
To help us with that in terms of distribution and also money. We also have the Arab states are going to help us with that in terms of the money and possibly distribution. So that's what I'm focused on. As far as the rest of it, I really can't say. That's going to be pretty much up to Israel. Yeah, please. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. On transgender athletes in the Olympics, back to the safety, especially of female combat boxers, will the Department of Justice considering pressing charges against any man that tries to masquerade as a woman coming into this country to beat up American athletes? And secondly, would your administration consider genetic testing so that these people can prove that they're actually women competing?
Well, I think there is going to be a very strong form of testing. As far as charges, I'd have to ask the Attorney General about that. I don't know. But there will be a very, very strong form of testing. And if the test doesn't come out appropriately, they won't be in the Olympics. Yes, ma'am. Please. Go ahead, please. White.
Thank you. Mr. President, do you believe that the U.S. committee would have made this decision on men and women's sports if you weren't president? And do you believe that this decision will stay in place once you are no longer president?
I think they probably would have, because it just seems to be an issue that most people feel should be. I can't really say. You could have asked Chairman Wasserman. But I would say that, there's a possibility. It could go either way if you really want to know the truth. I feel strongly about it. I ran a campaign, at least partially on that. That was one of the many issues that I talked about: open borders, the economy, taxes, all of the things. But that was certainly one of the issues. So I really can't, I really don't know. Could have gone either way. Please.
Have you decided on a replacement for the Fed governor?
For Fed governor, I'll be making that decision before the end of the week, and we'll either decide on one for permanence or the 4-month period, the term. There's a term of about a number of months. We have a couple of candidates. I mean, everybody wants it. Okay, it's not a couple, but we've narrowed it to a couple of candidates, and we've also we're looking at the Fed chair, and that's down to 4 people right now. Very good.
Waller and Kevin Warsh are probably on that list. Trump did say in the morning that Bessent is not going to be the next Fed chair. So you got Waller, Kevin Warsh, and then you've got probably 2 other people. And probably by late September, early October, we'll get that announcement.
Well, I can tell you because I've already said there's 2 Kevins and 2 other people. Okay, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has to do with the safety aspect of the Olympics. What can you do as a president to ensure that Southern California, the greater Los Angeles area, is safe from any fire danger, that the state clears away brush in state parks? The reason why this last fire happened in Pacific Palisades. What can you ensure for that?
Well, as you know, Brian, we have, I've been fighting with them for a long time about allowing the water to come down from the Pacific Northwest, essentially. And we actually opened up that water pretty strongly. We got a lot of opposition from the governor, and we opened it up anyway, and the water is coming down. That we want it opened further. They have a lot of water. They send it out into the Pacific Ocean in order to protect the smelt. It's a little tiny fish that's not doing very well, especially when they don't have water. They really do badly, okay? But it's a fish, environmentally protected, even though it's in many other areas. I think they just use that as an excuse to smelt. You'll check that out. But I think it's just an excuse. They've got to allow full water, and they're working with Lee Zeldin is really helping us a lot, but they've got to allow a full complement of water to come down from the Pacific Northwest. There is so much water. If Gavin Newsom let the water come down, see the way I pronounced his name properly for a change, if this guy allowed the water to come down from the Pacific Northwest, they have so much water they don't know what to do with it. All of those sprinklers would have gone on. All of those people with those beautiful houses with sprinklers in the ceilings and with the water, the fire pumps outside, all that water. They didn't have any water because they wouldn't let the water come down. There's so much water there. At first, when I got involved with this issue in my first term, I said to the congressman, they took me up because they wanted to show me the fields where they could farm 10 times more product. You'd see 100 acres, and you'd see 1 acre or 2 acres, beautiful green. It's very vibrant, but they don't give it the water that it's entitled to. And I said, oh, they have a drought? I said, no, they told me we don't have a drought. They don't. The Democrats don't allow the water to come down into the farms and into anywhere. By the time it gets down even into certain parts of California, it's fed out stupidly into the Pacific Ocean. If that water were allowed, so we broke into it and we allowed it to come down, and it come down at a higher level, and we want that, and we're demanding that of the governor. The other thing is, we'll do anything necessary to keep the Olympics safe, including using our National Guard or military. Okay. No, I will use the National Guard or military. This is going to be so safe. And if we have to, because obviously you have a mayor that is not very competent. She can't get the permits for the people. You know, the people are still waiting for their permits. Lee Zeldin got them the federal permit, which is 10 times harder to get. And everybody can build on the federal basis, and that's the hard one. But the mayor, Bass, she cannot, she refuses to.
All right. So a lot of discussion of H2O from Trump, taking questions from reporters for the 2028 Olympics. AMD should be starting in about 30 seconds, folks. And then we are going to get into the call and see what happens. Again, for those that are just joining, the results on AMD, they were good, not great, came in line with expectations on EPS. If you want to give them a beat, they beat by about 1 cent. And then on revenue, they beat by about 3%, which is good. but it's not, super, super phenomenal. So stocks up from 78 to 167. I don't think people can be that upset. But if there was a big move projected after hours, you just, at least from my perspective, didn't see massive growth numbers to justify that. Maybe not this quarter. They have some price increases coming into Q3, Q4, so we should see that. China revenue should be coming Q3, Q4, but Q2 is just not like that crazy growth quarter. And maybe it wasn't meant to be. So fortunately, this one's not pumping too hard, but we'll see what Lisa Su says in the call. Again, I'm not an expert on AMD, so I'll just be listening to the call with you guys. I'm sure you guys will be listening for very specific things, but for me, it's just trying to hear exactly what they are guiding for and kind of how they think of running the business right now. Should be starting in about 15 seconds. Then I will switch over and we'll see what we got on AMD. Yeah, a lot of water, a lot of a lot of fish talking, a lot of water stuff. That's what you got from Trump. Nvidia after hours, again, down 0.5%, nothing crazy. Snapchat wrecked 15%, Rivn wrecked 4%, SMCI wrecked 14%. That's better than the 17% it was down. AMD down 4%, Upstart down 9%, Opendoor down 18%. Opendoor is about 5 cents away from going below 2%. Arista and A-Lab, they're the ones that carried the earnings today, up both about 10% each after hours. All right, here we go. AMD call. Let's get into it. This is what we're going to be looking for
during today's call. The full non-GAAP to GAAP reconciliations are available in today's press release and slides posted on our website. Participants in today's conference call are Dr. Lisa Su, our Chair and Chief Executive Officer, and Jean Hu, our Executive Vice President, Chief Financial Officer, and Treasurer. This is a live call and will be replayed via webcast on our website. Before we begin, I would like to note that Jean Hu, Executive Vice President, Chief Financial Officer, and Treasurer, will present at Citi's 2025 Global TMT Conference on Wednesday, September 3rd. And Forrest Norrod, Executive Vice President and General Manager of Data Center Solutions Business Unit, will present at the Goldman Sachs Communacopia and Technology Conference on Monday, September 8th. Today's discussion contains forward-looking statements based on our current beliefs, assumptions, and expectations, speaks only as of today, and as such involves risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially from our current expectations. Please refer to the cautionary statement in our press release for more information on factors that could cause actual results to differ materially. With that, I will hand the call over to Lisa.
Thank you, Matt, and good afternoon to all those listening today. We delivered very strong second quarter results, with revenue exceeding the midpoint of guidance as higher EPYC and Ryzen processor sales more than offset headwinds from export controls that impacted Instinct sales. We set records for both EPYC and Ryzen CPU sales, reflecting the broad-based demand for our differentiated high-performance data center, PC, and embedded processors. Second quarter revenue increased 32% year over year to a record $7.7 billion, and we delivered over $1 billion in free cash flow. Excluding the $800 million inventory write-down related to data center AI export controls, gross margin was 54%, marking our sixth consecutive quarter of year-over-year margin expansion, led by a richer product mix. Turning to the segments, data center segment revenue increased 14% year over year to $3.2 billion. We saw robust demand across our EPYC portfolio to power cloud and enterprise workloads, and increasingly for emerging AI use cases. In particular, adoption of agentic AI is creating additional demand for general-purpose compute infrastructure, as customers quickly realize that each token generated by a GPU triggers multiple CPU-intensive tasks. Against this backdrop, 5th-gen EPYC Turin shipments ramped significantly, and we had sustained demand for our prior generation EPYC processors. As a result, we set records for both cloud and enterprise CPU sales and delivered our 33rd consecutive quarter of year-over-year share gains. In cloud, adoption expanded with the largest hyperscalers as they deployed EPYC to power more of their mission-critical infrastructure, services, and public cloud products. More than 100 new AMD-powered cloud instances launched in the quarter, including multiple Turin instances from Google and Oracle Cloud that deliver up to twice the performance of our previous generation, which were already the industry's highest performing offerings. There are now nearly 1,200 EPYC Cloud instances available globally as providers continue expanding both the breadth and regional availability of their AMD offerings. This continued expansion is accelerating enterprise adoption of EPYC in the cloud, with deployments growing significantly from the prior quarter as we closed large wins with dozens of large aerospace, streaming, financial services, retail, and energy companies. EPYC adoption also grew with telecom customers as providers modernize their infrastructure for next-generation networks. For example, KDDI announced plans to deploy EPYC processors to power its 5G virtualized network. And Nokia selected EPYC for its cloud platform used by service providers to build, deploy, and manage core network functions. Turning to enterprise on-prem adoption, HPE, Dell, Lenovo, and Supermicro launched 28 new Turin platforms in the quarter that deliver leadership performance, efficiency, and TCO across a wide range of enterprise workloads. EPYC enterprise deployments grew significantly from the prior quarter, supported by new wins with large technology, automotive, manufacturing, financial services, and public sector customers. To extend our momentum with SMB and hosted IT service customers, we launched the EPYC 4005 series that combine enterprise-grade performance and features in cost-optimized platforms purpose-built for smaller-scale deployments. Turning to HPC, AMD now powers more than one-third of the world's fastest supercomputers, including El Capitan and Frontier, which retained the number 1 and number 2 spots on the latest Top 500 list. We also power 12 of the top 20 systems on the Green 500, highlighting the performance per watt advantages of EPYC and Instinct for large-scale deployments. Looking ahead, we remain bullish on our server CPU business, driven by durable tailwinds, including growing demand for cloud and on-prem compute, sustained share gains, and the growing investments in general-purpose infrastructure required to enable AI. Turning to our data center AI business, revenue declined year over year as U.S. export restrictions effectively eliminated MI308 sales to China, and we began transitioning to our next-generation MI350 series accelerators. We made solid progress with MI300 and MI325 in the quarter, closing new wins and expanding adoption with Tier 1 customers, next-generation AI cloud providers, and end users. Today, 7 of the top 10 model builders and AI companies use Instinct, underscoring the performance and TCO advantages of our data center AI solutions. We launched our Instinct MI350 series with industry-leading memory bandwidth and capacity and broad adoption across hyperscalers, AI companies, and OEMs. From a competitive standpoint, MI355 matches or exceeds B200 in critical training and inference workloads and delivers comparable performance to GB200 for key workloads at significantly lower cost and complexity. For at-scale inferencing, MI355 delivers up to 40% more tokens per dollar, providing leadership performance and clear TCO advantages. With the MI350 series, we're also expanding our system-level capabilities to support deployments powered by AMD CPUs, GPUs, and NICs. As one example, Oracle is building a 27,000-plus node AI cluster, combining MI355X accelerators, 5th-gen EPYC Turin CPUs, and Pollara 400 SmartNICs. We began volume production of the MI350 series ahead of schedule in June and expect a steep production ramp in the second half of the year to support large-scale production deployments with multiple customers. Our sovereign AI engagements accelerated in the quarter as governments around the world adopt AMD technology to build secure AI infrastructure and advance their economies. As one example, we announced a multi-billion-dollar collaboration with Humane to build AI infrastructure powered entirely on AMD CPUs, GPUs, and software. Initial deployments are underway in key regions, with quarterly expansions planned over the coming years. In addition, we have more than 40 active engagements globally and see significant opportunities to power an increasingly larger portion of national computing centers and sovereign AI initiatives. On the AI software front, we made significant progress this quarter, increasing the performance, improving the usability, and expanding the adoption of ROCm. We announced ROCm 7 with major upgrades across every layer of the stack, delivering more than 3x higher inferencing and training performance compared to our prior generation, and adding support for large-scale training, distributed inference, and lower precision data types. To deepen developer engagement, we introduced nightly ROCm builds and expanded access to instant compute infrastructure, including launching our first developer cloud that provides pre-configured containers for instant access to AMD GPUs. We also expanded native support for ROCm across key frameworks, including VLLM and SGLang, enabling frontier models like Llama 4, Gemma 3, and DeepSeek R1 to launch with day zero AMD support. To accelerate enterprise adoption, we introduced ROCm Enterprise AI, a full-stack platform that integrates seamlessly with existing IT infrastructure and includes everything needed for an enterprise to deploy, manage, and scale AI across their business. Looking ahead, the development of our next-generation MI400 series is progressing rapidly. These are the most advanced GPUs we have ever built, with up to 40 petaflops of FP4 AI performance and 50% more memory bandwidth, and scale-out throughput than the competition. With the MI400 series, we're bringing together everything we've learned across silicon, software, and systems to deliver Helios, a full-stack rack-scale AI platform. Helios is purpose-built for the most demanding AI workloads, with each rack connecting up to 72 GPUs that can operate as a single massive AI accelerator. Helios is expected to deliver up to a 10x generational performance increase for the most advanced frontier models, and we believe it will be the highest performance AI system in the world when it launches. MI400 series development is progressing well towards our planned launch in 2026, with significant interest in large-scale deployments from multiple high-profile customers. To accelerate our development, we have invested significantly to expand our AI software and hardware capabilities, both organically and inorganically, with a number of acquisitions and strategic investments. We strengthened our software stack last quarter with the addition of the Rivn and Lemoni teams, building on our acquisitions of Nod.ai, Mipsology, and Silo AI. On the hardware side, we added a world-class rack and data center scale design team in the second quarter with our acquisition of ZT Systems. The ZT team is integrated seamlessly, and they are actively engaging with multiple customers to accelerate deployments of our Helios solutions at scale. We also announced last quarter that Sanmina intends to acquire ZT's US-based manufacturing business, becoming our lead partner for AI rack manufacturing. Turning to the AI regulatory environment, earlier this quarter, we were notified by the Department of Commerce that it is moving forward with the review of our license applications to export MI308 to China. We appreciate the focus the Trump administration is placing on ensuring that the U.S. technology remains central to global AI infrastructure, and we expect to resume MI308 shipments as licenses are approved, subject to end customer demand and supply chain readiness. As our licenses are still under review, we are not including any MI308 revenue in our third quarter guidance. Despite that, we expect Instinct revenue to grow year over year in the third quarter, driven by the ramp of MI350 at multiple customers. In client and gaming, segment revenue increased 69% year over year to $3.6 billion, driven by record client CPU sales and strong demand for our semi-custom game console SoCs and Radeon GPUs. Client revenue increased 67% year over year to $2.5 billion, led by record desktop CPU sales. Demand for our latest generation Ryzen 9000 series was strong, especially for our differentiated X3D processors. We delivered record desktop channel CPU sales as Ryzen processors consistently topped the best-selling CPU lists at major global e-tailers throughout the quarter. We also expanded our Zen 5 desktop portfolio with the launch of our latest Threadripper processors that feature up to 96 cores and deliver up to double the performance of the competition, in many popular content creation and design workloads. In mobile, demand for AMD-powered notebooks was strong, with sellout growing by a large double-digit percentage year over year. We drove a richer mix of higher ASP mobile parts year over year as we expanded our share in the premium notebook segment, where our Ryzen AI 300 CPUs deliver leadership performance and value for both general purpose and AI workloads. In commercial PCs, Ryzen adoption accelerated as OEM consumption increased more than 25% year over year. We saw strong sell-through for AMD commercial notebooks with Lenovo and HP, and a significant uptick in Dell sales as they ramp availability of their AMD commercial portfolio. We also closed new enterprise wins with Forbes 2000, pharma, tech, automotive, financial services, aerospace, and healthcare companies. We expect to continue growing our commercial client share based on the strength of our product portfolio and expanded breadth of OEM offerings. Looking more broadly, we remain confident we can continue growing client processor revenue ahead of the market over the coming quarters, driven by increased adoption of our desktop and notebook products, growing commercial momentum, and a richer product mix. In gaming, revenue increased 73% year over year to $1.1 billion. Semi-custom revenue increased by a large double-digit percentage year over year as console inventories normalized and our customers began preparing for the holiday season. We announced a new multi-year collaboration with Microsoft for custom chips that will power the next generation of Xbox devices, including consoles, PCs, and handhelds. We also deepened our collaboration with Sony through Project Amethyst, a co-engineering program that will use machine learning to power the next wave of immersive gaming experiences. In PC gaming, demand for our latest generation Radeon 9000 series GPUs was very strong, with desktop GPU sell-through accelerating in the quarter as demand outpaced supply. We launched the Radeon 9600 XT, extending the performance advantages of RDNA 4 to mainstream gamers and delivering a significant uplift in gaming performance, including more than double the ray tracing of our prior generation. As part of our end-to-end AI strategy, we introduced the Radeon AI Pro R9700 GPU for local inferencing, model fine-tuning, and other data-intensive workloads. The R9700 features more memory, full ROCm support, and multi-GPU scalability, enabling advanced AI development and deployment directly on the desktop. Turning to our embedded segment, revenue decreased 4% year over year to $824 million. Demand continues recovering gradually, with sell-through in the second quarter picking up as strength in most markets was offset by a few pockets of softness and inventory reduction actions, largely with industrial customers. We expanded our embedded portfolio with the first production shipments of Spartan UltraScale Plus FPGAs that deliver leadership performance and advanced security for cost-sensitive low-power applications. Adoption of our Versal adaptive SoCs continues expanding in high-end applications, including next-generation robotaxi platforms developed by Bosch in Europe, where Versal serves as a high-performance controller, enabling real-time processing, security, and encryption in fully electric automated vehicles. Looking ahead, we expect improving demand in the test and measurement, communications, and aerospace markets will drive a return to sequential growth in the second half of 2025. Longer term, design win momentum continues to build, tracking ahead of this point last year, and putting us on pace to surpass the record $14 billion in design wins we achieved in 2024. In summary, demand is very strong across our product portfolio, and we are well positioned to deliver significant growth in the second half of the year, led by the steep ramp of MI350 series accelerators and ongoing EPYC and Ryzen share gains. Our server and PC CPU businesses are accelerating, driven by growing demand for high-performance compute, sustained share gains, the strength of our product portfolio, and expanded go-to-market investments. Our embedded and gaming businesses are returning to growth and are well positioned for long-term success, supported by strong design win momentum. And in AI, we are seeing strong adoption of our MI350 series and ROCm 7 as we deliver leadership performance and TCO advantages across a broader range of workloads, and ramp deployments with an expanded set of cloud and enterprise customers. Looking ahead, we see a clear path to scaling our AI business to tens of billions of dollars in annual revenue. We are very excited about our next generation MI400 series, which is another giant step forward on our roadmap and has been designed to deliver leadership performance at the chip, server, and rack levels. Customer interest for the MI400 series is very strong, and we are actively engaging with an expanding set of customers to support large-scale deployments in 2026. We are in the early stages of an industry-wide AI transformation that will drive a step function increase in compute demand across all of our markets, positioning us for significant revenue and earnings growth over the coming years. Now I'd like to turn the call over to Jean to provide some additional color on our second quarter results. Jean?
Thank you, Lisa, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll start with a review of our financial results and then provide our outlook for the third quarter of fiscal 2025. We're pleased with our strong second quarter financial results. We delivered a record revenue of $7.7 billion, exceeding the middle point of our guidance, up 32% year-over-year, reflecting strong momentum across our business. Record sales of Ryzen and EPYC processors and higher semi-customer shipment more than offset the impact of the U.S. export controls, restricting MI308 sales to China. Revenue increased 3% sequentially due to strong growth in the client and the gaming segment, partially offset by the data center revenue decrease due to export controls. Gross margin was 43%, down 10 points from 53% a year ago. The decrease was due to the $800 million inventory and the related charges associated with the export restrictions. Excluding this charge, non-GAAP gross margin would have been approximately 54%. Operating expenses were approximately $2.4 billion, an increase of 32% year-over-year, as we continue to invest aggressively in go-to-market activities for revenue growth and in R&D to capitalize on significant future AI expansion opportunities. Operating income was $897 million, representing a 12% operating margin compared to $1.3 billion, or 22% a year ago. The decline was primarily due to the inventory and the related charges. Taxes, interest expense, and other totaled $126 million. For the second quarter of 2025, diluted earnings per share were 48 cents compared to 69 cents a year ago. The inventory and the related charges reduced earnings per share by approximately 43 cents. Now turning to our reportable segment, starting with the data center. Data center segment revenue was $3.2 billion, up 14% year-over-year, driven by strong EPYC CPU revenue and share gains across both cloud and enterprise customers. On a sequential basis, data center revenue decreased 12% due to the impact of the export controls on MI308. The data center segment operating loss was $155 million, compared to operating income of $743 million a year ago, or 26% of revenue. The loss was primarily due to the inventory and related charges. Client and gaming segment revenue was $3.6 billion, up 69% year-over-year and 20% sequentially, driven by record client CPU sales and strong demand for our PC and console gaming products. In the client business, revenue was a record of $2.5 billion, up 67% year-over-year, driven by record sales of our Ryzen desktop CPUs and the richer product mix. Gaming revenue rose to $1.1 billion, up 73% year-over-year, reflecting strong demand for our newly launched gaming GPUs and higher semi-customer revenue as the inventory has now normalized and customers prepare for the holiday season. Client and gaming segment operating income was $767 million, or 21% of revenue, compared to $166 million, or 8% a year ago. driven by richer client product mix and operating leverage on higher revenue. Embedded segment revenue was $824 million, down 4% year-over-year and flat sequentially, as embedded end market demand remains mixed. Embedded segment operating income was $275 million, or 33% of revenue, compared to $345 million, or 40% a year ago. The decline in operating income was primarily due to product mix. Before I review the balance sheet and the cash flow, as a reminder, we closed the acquisition of ZT Systems early in the second quarter, as we had announced our intent to divest the ZT manufacturing business. The financial results of the ZT manufacturing business are reported separately in our financial statement as discontinued operations, and are excluded from our non-GAAP financials. Subsequently, in May, we entered into agreement with the Sanmina Corporation to sell the ZT manufacturing business for $3 billion in cash and stock, inclusive of contingent payment. The transaction is expected to close near the end of from operating activities of continuing operations, and the free cash flow was a record of $1.2 billion. We returned $478 million to shareholders.
Why isn't the audio working? How long has the audio not been working for? What? How did it not? Oh, let me try it again. Let's see.
Resulting in $1.2 billion in share repurchases for the first half of 2025. In May, our board of directors approved an additional $6 billion authorization. Exiting the quarter, we have $9.5 billion remaining under our share repurchase program. At the end of the quarter, cash equivalents, and short-term investment were $5.9 billion. Our long-term debt was $3.2 billion. During the quarter, we paid down $950 million of commercial paper used to finance the ZT Systems acquisition close. Now turning to our third quarter 2025 outlook. Please note that our third quarter outlook does not include any revenue from AMD Instinct MI308 shipment to China, as our license applications are currently under review by U.S. government. For the third quarter of 2025, we expect revenue to be approximately $8.7 billion, plus or minus $300 million. The midpoint of our guidance represents approximately 28% year-over-year revenue growth, driven by strong double-digit growth in our client and gaming and the data center segments. Sequentially, we expect revenue to grow by approximately 13%, driven by strong double-digit growth in the data center segment with the ramp of our AMD Instinct MI350 series GPU products. Modest growth in our client gaming segment, with the client revenue increasing and the gaming revenue to be flattish, and our embedded segment revenue to return to growth. In addition, we expect third quarter non-GAAP gross margin to be approximately 54%, and we expect non-GAAP operating expenses to be approximately $2.55 billion. We expect net interest and other expenses to be a gain of approximately $10 million. We expect our non-GAAP effective tax rate to be 13%, and diluted share count is expected to be approximately 1.63 billion shares. In closing, we executed very well in the first half of the year, delivering record revenue and building strong momentum for growth in the second half. The strategic investment we're making positions us to capitalize on the expanding AI opportunities across all our end markets, driving sustainable long-term revenue growth and earnings expansion for compelling value creation. With that, I'll turn it back to Matt for the Q&A session.
Operator, will you please poll the audience for questions? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Matt. We will now be conducting a question and answer session.
All right, Q&A. Wake up.
Please press star
Why are you
one
guys
on your
sleeping?
telephone
It's
keypad.
time. Q&A. Here we
A
go.
confirmation tone will indicate that your line is in the queue. You may press star two to remove yourself from the queue. For participants using speaker equipment, it may be necessary to pick up the handset before pressing the star keys. We ask that you please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Thank you. One moment, please, while we poll for questions.
Bro, I was awake. You guys were the ones sleeping. I don't know what you're talking about. I was here.
And the first question comes from the line of Thomas O'Malley with Barclays. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, thank you for taking my questions, and I appreciate it. Lisa, I wanted to start on the client business. So you had previously laid out a second half outlook that was roughly flattish with the first half as you're kind of protecting against some pull forward. So first, do you think that your Q2 results included some pull forwards and the second half should still be flattish? And longer term, after the Intel commentary regarding 18A, maybe what that means as a knee-jerk reaction just right away for AMD longer term in terms of share and ASPs.
Sure, Tom. Thanks for the question. So first of all, our client and gaming segment, and particularly our client business, just performed very well in the first half of the year. I think if you look at the entire first half, it was up 68% year over year. I think if you look underneath that, what we're seeing is strength in every part of our client business. So we saw very strong sales in our desktop channel area. We have a leadership product there, best gaming GPUs with our X3D GPUs. We've had strong Ryzen AI adoption as well in the first half of the year. We see that in sell-through. And in addition, we've had strong enterprise sell-through as we brought that forward. So to your question of how much is pulled forward, we don't think a whole lot of that is. We actually, when we look at the sell-through patterns, the end user consumption is actually quite strong for client. In terms of going into the second half of the year, as we said in our Q3 guide, the primary driver of our Q3 guide is a very strong data center driven by MI350 ramping. We are expecting some growth in the client business, so I wouldn't say it'll be flat to the first half, but it will be. We're planning for it to be a little bit less than seasonal. Just given some of the uncertainties out there. But the client business is performing extremely well for us. We believe we are gaining share in all the right places. So if you look at the numbers in the first quarter, and it'll show through in the second quarter as well, a lot of the uplift in revenue is in ASPs. And that is basically, we're selling up the stack on the strength of our portfolio. And I think we're still quite underrepresented in the enterprise portion of the business. That is where we have increased our go-to-market resources and focus, and we're seeing nice traction there, especially with the portfolios that we have from HP and Lenovo in enterprise PCs, and now we're adding Dell as well as it's ramping here. Started in the second quarter, we'll ramp more in the second half of the year. So I think all of those are tailwinds for our client business, beyond the second half of 25, but really into the next number of quarters as we think about the portfolio and the opportunities for us.
Super helpful. And then secondly, I was hopeful you could provide us a little more color on China. So the guide doesn't include MI308, but perhaps you could comment on when you get approval, if the supply chain's ready, what's currently in inventory, and maybe compare what you think the contribution will look like versus the $700 million in Q2 and the $800 million for the second half you spoke about in April.
Sure, Tom. So let me answer some of the questions on China. I'm sure that there are some questions. Look, we're very pleased with the progress that's been made with the administration over the last couple of months. We've been working very closely with the administration. I think the focus here on ensuring that U.S. technology gets utilized throughout the world is something that we certainly support and very much want to contribute to. China is an important market for us. Given the timing of licenses, we have a number of licenses that are under review now. We are working with the Department of Commerce to get those reviewed. We do expect that once those licenses are approved, we will start MI308 shipments. In terms of the supply chain, most of our inventory was not in finished goods, so it was work in process, and it'll take us a couple quarters to run through that. The exact timing of revenue and contribution will depend a bit on when the licenses are actually granted. But overall, I think this is a better position than we were 90 days ago, and we certainly view China as a market that we would like to service with MI308. We're working closely with the administration to do that.
Very politically correct answer.
And the next question comes from the line of Vivek Arya with Bank of America Securities. Please proceed with your question.
Thank you for taking my question. Lisa, if we look into 2026, right, that's when I think the sovereign opportunity could get quite meaningful for AMD. What is the right way to size that? What does this JV structure mean with some of the contracts that you have signed? And would you consider this incremental to the kind of growth rate that you're seeing with your current MI business, or would this be instead of? So just if you could give us a way to size what is that incremental opportunity from sovereign customers when it comes to 26, right? Is it dependent on a MI 400, right? In which case it might be more backup dated, etc. So just some ways to think about sovereign for AMD next year.
Yeah, absolutely, Vivek. Thanks for the question. So look, we're really excited about the overall AI opportunity for us with MI 355 and the MI 400 series as we go through the back half of this year and into 2026. I think it's there's a very large opportunity with, let's call it, hyperscalers, some of the leading AI companies, as well as sovereign. I think sovereign is additive to that for sure. From the standpoint of what to expect, there are also some regulatory things that need to be worked through on the sovereign side. But again, we're working closely with the administration as they go through the various regulatory decisions that need to be made. But from my perspective, I think the fact that countries want their own sovereign computing capability is very, very clear. I think we see that all over the world. The humane opportunity that you're referring to that we announced with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I think is a great example of where, together with their ambitions, our technology, I think you heard from Tarek he was at our event saying that would start with MI 355, that we would expect that would continue on. I think what's attractive about our offering is our open ecosystem, and I think that really resonates with the sovereign community. But to your original question, I think it's an additive opportunity, and it's one that we believe will continue to be very important for us going forward with both MI 355 as well as the MI 400 series.
Got it. And for my follow-up, I wanted to ask about gross margins for your MI product. So I understand in the early days, right, it has been dilutive. What kind of sales level is required for it to start becoming, additive to margins? And let's say if I fast forward to Q4 and assume that, your Q4 sales are growing year on year, roughly the same rate as Q3 sales, should we expect gross margins to kind of stay at these Q3 levels, or are there other plus minus drivers we should think about in terms of gross margins as you go into Q4? Thank you.
Yeah, Vivek, thank you for the question. The gross margin of our MI product, we said it's a little bit below corporate average. I think at this point, our priority is really to address the larger, faster growing revenue opportunities we have and provide customers a better TCO to really expand our presence in the marketplace. I think the way to think about our gross margin, there are different dynamics, right? Different customers, different generations, but also our operation team has been continuing to really drive operational efficiency to improve our MI family's gross margin. That has been ongoing. So it's not necessarily really tied to, the revenue level each quarter, but you should think about it as a trend in the longer term. It should improve continually going forward. Overall, the way I think about it is gross margin dollars, right? This is one of the fastest growing market opportunities for any financial metrics. Gross margin dollars is what we try to grab as much as we can. Hopefully that helped your question.
And the next question comes from the line of Timothy Arcuri with UBS. Please proceed with your question.
Thanks a lot. Lisa, so my question is on data center GPU. You did say that June is up year over year, so it sounds like it's maybe a little more than $1 billion. And you use words like strong ramp into the back half of the year. Can you give us just any color on what that means? Can you get to, say, $7 billion for the year? And can you give us some maybe milepost on what you're assuming for Q3 would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Tim, for the question. I think what we said in the prepared remarks is that we are seeing a strong ramp from Q2 into Q3. MI355, we actually started production in June, so we had some shipments, in the month of June, but it really is ramping as we go through this quarter and the third quarter. So, in terms of guideposts, we said it would grow year on year. From last year, and that I think is a strong ramp, and then we would expect it to grow into the fourth quarter as well. The demand, I should say, what we're seeing from customers is I think really positive around MI355. Sort of the way I would contrast it with maybe the MI300 ramp. I think MI300 started with perhaps some smaller deployments. I think what we're seeing with MI355 is very competitive versus the B200, GB200 family of products. I think there's a strong desire to really use us at scale. The MI355 is very strong for inferencing. We're also working with a number of customers on training, and this is also an opportunity for us to build into the MI400 series as we go into 2026. So we're bullish on MI355 and where the AI opportunity is for us, and I think we're right on track to what we expected to be as we were going through the development of the roadmap.
Thanks a lot. And then Lisa, just on that point also, you did talk about a new developer cloud. So obviously you're beginning to lease back some of the capacity that you're selling into the clouds and the neo clouds. Is that going to be a material portion of the revenue you're going to recognize for MI355 in the back half of the year? Can you just talk about that and maybe how to think about how much demand that's going to stimulate and what the ultimate goal is for that cloud? Thanks.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things in that question, so let me answer. So the developer cloud is simply, we want to make it super easy for developers to get on AMD Instinct GPUs. One could say, again, if we look back at the MI300 family, we were very focused on the largest hyperscalers and the largest customers, but there's a lot of interest in our GPUs, across a number of customers who just wanted easier access. And so by ensuring that, developer cloud is there, that it has, ready to deploy containers, you can run training and inference easily. You don't necessarily have to make, longer term commitments. I think that's the purpose of the developer cloud. I don't think it adds meaningfully to revenue in the second half of the year, but it certainly adds to customers getting experience with AMD. I think the larger revenue opportunities for us are really with large customer adoption as they ramp to larger deployments, and we're very actively trying to get those deployments up and running as soon as possible. One of the things, just as a reminder, that the MI355 is, given that it's a similar infrastructure to MI300, we actually think it's going to ramp very quickly and very well for customers, and I think that's one of the attractive portions of it as well.
And the next question comes from the line of Ross Seymour with Deutsche Bank. Please proceed with your question.
Hi, thanks for letting me ask a question. Lisa, I want to go back to the Instinct side of things and the MI355 ramp. Looks like the second half is going to ramp really significantly. You said it's going to be up year over year in the third quarter. I believe a quarter ago you said roughly the same thing, and the MI308 is out of both numbers, so that shouldn't really matter, and I guess it would be upside. But I've just wondered, how have things changed from a quarter ago as far as the MI350 family adoption, especially because you launched a little bit early? Is the growth a little bit more than you would have expected a quarter ago, about the same, or a little worse? Just any sort of color on that would be helpful.
Yeah, Ross, thanks for the question. I think the main thing I would say is I think the adoption is a bit faster than we might have expected. Again, whenever you launch a product, we want to make sure that we go through the full validation and all of that with our customers. I think there's a lot of interest, broad-based interest in MI355, and so I feel like over the last 90 days, I think we've had significant sort of new customer interest, and that's certainly positive. I will say,
Great. I guess
oh, I'm sorry, Ross. I was just going to add, our engagements are. I think the other piece is I think there's also a lot of excitement around MI400 and what we can do with the Helios rack, and so there are a number of customers who based on sort of the strong roadmap that we're showing, want to get familiar and really work with us earlier in the life cycle, which I think is again positive.
Great. Thank you for that. I guess as my follow-up, an earlier question, you talked about a little bit below seasonality in the second half of the year for your client business. It seems like there's just, I don't even know if seasonality is a framework that matters, but how are you thinking about that for the second half as a whole for a client? And then gaming was just up a huge amount sequentially in the second quarter. You described a little bit of what you're expecting there, but how do you think about seasonality for the second half in its entirety in the gaming side as well?
Yeah, let me try, and then Jean might add if you want a little bit more color. So the way to think about it is, we do expect some growth, sequential growth in clients as we go into the third quarter. I would say, sort of, single digit, type growth. We continue to see good traction for our products and that portfolio. On the gaming side, I would call it flattish to Q2. And we're coming off of such a strong Q2 that I think flattish is actually to be expected. As we go into the fourth quarter, the dynamics that we would see is, we would see that the console business would actually be down substantially. So think about it as down strong double digits. The customers usually build for the holiday season in sort of before that, and then that will be completed by the fourth quarter. So we would expect, as the client and gaming segment, that the segment would probably be down in the fourth quarter. So hopefully that helps. Jean, did you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
And the next question comes from the line of Joshua Buchalter with TD Cowen. Please proceed with your question.
Hey guys, thank you for taking my question. I wanted to ask about lead times on the Instinct family, both for the MI350 group family and MI400. I mean, as you move into larger cluster sizes, which it sounds like you're doing at least with Oracle on 350, and then endeavor to do more so on 400. How much visibility and lead time do you need from your customers? Because I would imagine the lead time for your parts is measured in months, but on the infrastructure side, in particular for the larger scale deployments, I mean, those things are measured in years at this point. So maybe you could speak to the visibility specifically on the 400. Thank you.
Yes, sure, Josh. So yes, I mean, our lead times are long, given all of the processing steps that we have to go through. Think about it as somewhere between 8-9 months, that type of thing. We have a very, very strong supply chain. We've been preparing for these ramps of both MI350 series and MI400 series, and that preparation is ongoing. So we feel like we have a very strong supply chain there. In terms of visibility with customers, we're absolutely working with customers very closely on near term MI350 series deployments, getting those deployments up as quickly as possible. Again, one of the things about the MI350 series that is good is that it can go into existing data centers, given just given the platform that is in. So we have been certainly working with our customers there. And then for the MI400 series, there are lots and lots of details in sort of full rack scale design implementation, and we're actively working with the largest customers right now on just ensuring that our Helios rack is fully compatible with their data center build outs as we go into 2026. So that visibility is important. I think that co-development, co-engineering is important as we get into the rack scale architecture, and the ZT team that we've brought in has been extremely, extremely helpful in terms of both internal platform build out, as well as ensuring that we're working closely with our customers on their data center needs.
Thank you for that, Lisa. And maybe for Gene, I wanted to follow up on Vivek's question earlier on gross margins. So if we add back the charges in 2Q, and then your gross margin implied in the guidance is roughly flat sequentially, and that's despite what's implied to be data center GPUs up meaningfully sequentially. Like it doesn't seem like consoles falling off in the third quarter. I mean, can you maybe talk to the underlying drivers of how you're able to keep the flat gross margins despite what sounds like still margin dilutive data center GPUs up significantly within the mix? Thank you.
Yeah, Josh, thanks for the question. Yeah, we are guiding our Q3 gross margin around 54%, and the Q2, you're right, excluding the 800 million charge, it was close to 54%. I think the gaming business actually is quite high, so the mix actually is unfavorable. But we do have some tailwinds we have been really driving. First is, we have been expanding our server business, which has a really nice gross margin. And on the client business side, we are expanding the commercial PC business. So that really helps us to drive the gross margin up. In addition, we do have a really strong operational team. They are driving the gross margin improvement just from operational efficiency perspective across the board. So overall, our objective is to continue to improve gross margin despite, MI350 very strong ramp in Q3. We are able to continue to drive the margin up.
And the next question comes from the line of Joe Moore with Morgan Stanley. Please proceed with your question.
Great, thank you. You've used this language before of the kind of tens of billions opportunity around MI400. Can you talk about, that the time frame when that might occur, and not to pin you down too much, but and what what would help you get to that level sooner rather than later? Should we think of that as a 2027 realistic outcome that you could be looking at 20 billion plus? Just a little bit more color on that tens of billions comment.
Yeah, I mean, maybe without being specific, Joe, I can give you sort of the way I look at it, and back to this notion of are we incrementally more confident? I think we're seeing a lot of positive signs in our AI customer adoption. I think the strength of the MI350 series, the very positive feedback that we're getting on MI400 from customers, the work that we're doing in terms of ensuring that we are, fully ready for large-scale deployments of not just inference but training. I think when we get to tens of billions of dollars, we're talking about, significant, gigawatt scale type deployments, and those would be important, for us to get there. And we're certainly, I think, engaged with all of the right customers that can enable that type of ramp. But I won't necessarily speculate on the exact time, other than to say, certainly that would be our set of aspirations.
Great, that's helpful. Thank you. And then as these workloads evolve, I mean, you've sort of talked about inference and training as sort of different opportunities for AMD. Are you seeing those start to come together? It seems like with inference, the reasoning models are requiring much higher complexity. Is rack scale more important to the inference market than you thought it might be? Just any color around how that complexity of inference is impacting you guys.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true, Joe. I think with the proliferation of models, I think what we're seeing is GPUs continue to be very sort of the computing of choice as you think about all the models that are out there, and then as you go into distributed inference and some of the newer techniques, we are seeing the importance of the scale up and the scale out architecture, which we are investing in. But I think the overarching thing is I think we have a very competitive roadmap across the next couple of generations. I think that has now gotten strong customer validation. We're getting a lot of feedback from customers on where they would like to see us continue to add more resources and add more focus. And so that is very helpful. And the key is to be a full scale solution provider for these large customer deployments, and that's what we're working on.
And the next question comes from the line of Aaron Rakers with Wells Fargo. Please proceed with your question.
Yeah, thanks for taking the question. I do have a follow-up as well. I guess the first question is, when we look at the data center guide, Gene, you alluded to double-digit sequential growth. Obviously, the MI, 355 series kind of ramping. I'm curious, how could we conceptualize what you're expecting in the server side, and where do you think your market share is today in traditional enterprise servers outside of cloud?
Yeah, I think when you look at our data center business, we do have a strong double-digit growth. Both the server and MI, both sides are growing sequentially. Of course, MI ramp is the most significant one. As far as the server market share, we do think we continue to drive the market share up compared to Q1. It's not a third party has not published a report yet, but we feel really good about the Q2 market share increase versus Q1.
Aaron, if I just add to that, one of the things that it's important for people to understand is, in some of the cloud CapEx numbers that have come out that have been, quite positive, that is not only a GPU statement, but there's actually significant CPU CapEx in there as well. We've started to see more robust forecasts going out a number of quarters on the server CPU side, because all of that AI content really requires traditional CPUs as well. And so we're very bullish on the opportunity in servers. I think the team has really executed extremely well. I mean, if you look at our portfolio now, Turin and Genoa are very well adopted, broadening workloads. Enterprise adoption is also increasing, and so I think all of those are positive for the server opportunity in the second half of 25, as well as going into 26 and beyond.
Yeah. And then as a follow-up, I'm kind of thinking about the China, the MI308 opportunity. When we do see a license, I think you alluded to this earlier, it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of ramp and get the supply chain to satisfy the demand. But I'm curious, the 800 million, write-down that you had taken, is there no kind of finished inventory there? Does that come back? Do you have any reversal aspects of that once a license gets approved?
Let me start first, then Lisa can add. First, on the 800 million, majority of them are WIPs. We really don't have the on-the-shelf finished good we can ship immediately. So we do need to take time if we get a license.
Yeah, I think so.
And the next question comes from the line of CJ Muse with Cantor Fitzgerald. Please proceed with your question.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the question. I guess Lisa was hoping you could level set us on the Instinct ramp into 2026. How are you thinking about the timing of the handoff 350 to 400? How are you thinking about Helios contributions? And I guess very importantly, from a customer contribution perspective, how you might see that evolve, from traditional hyperscalers to perhaps more sovereign and neo cloud within the mix.
Sure, CJ. So certainly as second half this year, it's all about MI355 ramp into first half of next year. I think the MI400 series development is right on track. The development of the Helios platform is also right on track. We would expect significant revenue contribution from Helios in 2026. And then relative to the contribution of the various things, hyperscalers, sort of some of the, versus neo clouds versus sovereign. I think it's a little early to really talk about the different pieces, other than to say, you would expect that, hyperscalers and let's call it, neo clouds that would be working for other large AI natives, maybe significant pieces of the initial ramp, and then, sovereign may come a little bit later in time. Just given, sort of the timing of when different build outs would happen. So hopefully that gives you some color, CJ.
Yeah, very helpful. And then Gene, I guess a question for you with the sale of ZT for $3 billion in cash and stock, and you only have $3 billion in debt outstanding. How are you thinking about the use of proceeds? Is there, saving for a rainy day or bolt-on acquisitions, perhaps more aggressive share buyback? How are you thinking about it today?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Our business model actually generates a lot of free cash flow, as you see in Q2. free cash flow generation was 1.2 billion. So if we close the ZT sale and we'll get more cash, overall our capital allocation principle continue to be the first thing is investing, especially with the tremendous AI opportunities ahead of us. And then we'll continue to return cash to shareholders. We did a 1.2 billion repurchase in the first half of the year. We are committed to continue to return cash to shareholders through share repurchase.
Operator, I think we have time for one more caller, please.
Okay. The final question comes from the line of Ben Reitzes with Melius Research. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, thanks for squeaking me in here. I wanted to clarify a little bit on the 1 billion increase in sequential sales. It would seem like it's coming from GPUs primarily. I was wondering if you could back that, and that's with nothing in China. And if the answer to the prior question that GPUs are over 1 billion, you know, that kind of puts you at a 2 billion run rate. And was just wondering if that was, you know, accurate in terms of thinking. And then I have just a very quick follow-up. Thanks.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for the question. If you look at the sequential revenue increase, as I mentioned during the prepared remarks, we see data center strong double-digit increase, which include both the GPU and the CPU, but the GPU definitely drives the largest incremental amount increase. We also mentioned the client actually is going to increase sequentially. In addition, the embedded business will return to sequential growth. So multiple businesses contributed to sequential increase, but the majority of increase is really driven by MI355 with this strong ramp.
Okay, great. And then if, you know, if indeed, you know, that gets you pretty close to a couple $1 billion, if the MI300 comes in, do you see it at the same run rate, you know, that you exited, and then you have the ability to, you know, get at that 800 mil run rate right away, or you think it'll take several quarters to ramp when you know you get the license? Thanks.
Yeah, Ben, it will take some time to ramp, just given, and you know, particularly, you know, today. I mean, we're sitting already, you know, in early August, so I don't think you would see a lot of it in Q3. But certainly, you know, as licenses would be approved, we would, you know, we would schedule that, and it would take a little while to ramp.
And ladies.
All right, operator. Thank you very much. We appreciate everybody that joined the call today, and we just like to end the call now. Thank you.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude today's teleconference. We thank you for your participation. You may disconnect your lines.
Bro, I've never heard a call ended like that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the call, and we'd like to end it right now. Has anyone heard a call? Is that how they end the AMD call? We just like to end the call now. It was like bro had to use the bathroom or something. Like, usually the CEO gives just like some closing remarks. It makes you so grateful for how Palantir and Robin do their call. I mean, what was that? All right, we'd like to end the call now. It's like, what? Okay, I guess you got to go somewhere, because it's not like this is a $300 billion company that once every 90 days gets to talk to their investors in the formal way through the process of earnings. It's not like that's kind of important, you know? No, we got to. I always wonder why earnings calls are so tight on time. I'm like, it's an hour every 90 days to formally talk to hundreds of thousands of investors. Like how is it that crucial to get out of there in like 40 minutes? But yeah, that's how the call ended. AMD right here down about 3.4%. You saw a little bit of a move back to 174 when some of the financial metrics were being announced for Q3, but it didn't really have any juice in it. And then Lisa Su at the very end, you heard her say that that there's going to be some issues with the ramp up, which is fair. You know, that happens. So I don't think anyone should be surprised on this when it comes to AMD. Definitely not people that understand this company very well, because you probably expected a rather silent Q2, nothing that exciting. Again, revenue growth 32% year-over-year, data center growth of 14%. It's good. It's not great. Q3, Q4 should be better with price increases coming and China revenues. Elisa Su gave a very politically correct answer around China. She was just like, yeah, we're working with the administration and it is what it is. I can't blame her for giving that type of an answer, but it wasn't like we are guaranteeing an extra $5 billion in revenue because of China. And granted, she probably doesn't want to guarantee anything super set in stone because she doesn't know yet. But it wasn't anything that would really give you a lot of hope that like, all right, they're definitely ramping up in Q3. And they're probably also sandbagging the Q3 guidance because of the China stuff coming in to be able to beat in Q3, which should be one of their better quarters this year. But that's my takeaway from the call as someone who does not own this stock. Was the call a little boring? Yeah. I mean, it definitely wasn't the most exciting call. Granted, a lot of calls are boring. The abrupt ending was a bit weird. I would have liked Lisa Su to actually like close out the call in a better way. But outside of that, phenomenal company, good earnings. Stock ran up a lot going into the print. And it's not just AMD. Upstart down 7%, Amgen down 1%, Nvidia's down a little 0.5%, Lucid down 7%, Opendoor down 21%. Zeta's up 5%, Arista's up 14%, and Astera's up 12%, but Snapchat's down 17%, Rivn's down 5%, SMCI is down 16%. Like, it was just a pretty bloody after hours for everybody. And it is what it is. It happens, especially when we're in the dog days of August as we're trying to get through the one of the 2 worst months of the year. Now, even within the dog days of August, take a look at this, and then I'll end it out, and I should get some sleep because I don't know how I'm awake right now. But look at this. So Bank of America came out with some data on inflows into equities. Last week, $14 billion came into U.S. large cap stocks. $5 billion came into small cap stocks. Small caps still have net outflows of $80 billion this year. Large caps have $419 billion of annual inflows, the second highest on record, just below 2024. But if we keep on this trajectory, then 2025 should be surpassing 2024. So, I mean, even amidst all the volatility, there is massive amounts of capital that is being allocated to the largest companies in the world. And realistically, that is the Mag 7. And overall, U.S. equities are on track for an annualized $286 billion of net inflows, which is just incredible. I mean, it's just incredible. That is the 3rd largest on record. So in the midst of whatever volatility that we're experiencing, we had Bank of America CEO come on today and say that there's not going to be any recession. He also says he doesn't think we're going to get a rate cut, but still you have people that obviously want to allocate into assets, and those assets end up being some of the most important companies in the world, which are United States assets. So there we go. That's what we got. All right, guys. I think that's it for me. Bro, you have to abruptly. Yo, I think that's why I was so triggered by that. Because I spent like 30 minutes to give a goodbye on my stream. And this dude just say, all right, we would like to end the stream now. And I'm like, this is a $300 billion company. Like, don't you want the CEO to just like tell us she loves us before she leaves? Like, is like, nope, we end the stream now. Yeah, so that's probably why it was a bit triggering for me. Because I was like, that's a little too much, but or a little too fast. But anyway, I'm not going to spend 30 minutes to end this out. I got to get out of here. I am so freaking tired. But again, congratulations to everyone on Palantir. It's an incredible quarter. I know we talked about it a lot today, but I think if we were going to spend some time talking about it, today would be the day after the quarter that we got 171 after hours, 173 on the close. Again, rest of the earnings after the bell just weren't the best in terms of the stock price reaction. But overall, outside of some companies that genuinely didn't have the best metrics like Snapchat and SMCI, everyone else had relatively decent earnings. Stock prices just didn't reflect that, which is okay right now, especially given those stocks have moved so heavily since the April lows. Sleep deprivation rant incoming. If I wasn't that sleep deprived, I think I would get into that rant. But honestly, like I'm so tired at this point. We got to get to bed. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll be live tomorrow on the Market Open. We'll have a lot to break down and discuss. We got a bunch of other macro things that have happened throughout the day as well. We didn't get into too much of it today because we had earnings, but we'll analyze all that tomorrow. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Drink coffee, dude. I don't know how to drink coffee. Like I tried to drink coffee. I tried to drink black coffee in the beginning of the year, like no sugar, no cream, anything. And I liked it for like a week, and then I got off it. And then I tried it with sugar and cream. And then I liked that too, but then I don't drink anything in the morning, to be honest. I drink water in the morning when I wake up, but yeah, never turned into like a a coffee. The good thing is, like 2 years ago, I used to drink like lattes, but that stuff is just like, I can't drink lattes anymore. But yeah, it's the natural energy and the high from being here every single morning, which I deeply appreciate. But I think I got to get some sleep to be here tomorrow morning as well. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. You got him to stick around with the coffee talk. Every time I'm trying to leave, there's a comment that keeps me here. There's a comment that keeps me here. Dude, you know it would be so funny? It's 6:09. Imagine I stay till like 7:30, even though I'm sleep deprived, and just start talking about something. Like that would be something. There is a day I will do that on sleep deprivation, but I don't think today's the day. I can like feel my heart pumping like faster because like I need to go to bed. So I think I'm gonna go to bed. I think I will go to bed. All right, thank you everybody. Appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Congrats on Palantir. And we got a long month to go when it comes to analyzing August. We got a bunch of earnings tomorrow. Dude, okay, real quick. Tomorrow's earnings are going to be even crazier than what we had today. We got Duolingo tomorrow. That's going to be important. Elf, AppLovin, IONQ, Airbnb, DraftKings, Oxy, DoorDash, Lyft, Symbiotic, Dutch Bros, HubSpot, Uber, Shopify, Disney, McDonald's, Oscar, Unity, Wix, Sunrun. I mean, you just Fortinet. You got a lot of names. So we will talk about all that tomorrow morning. All right. I'm out. Thank you, everybody. Good night. I will now abruptly be ending the call. That was hilarious, but that was really funny. That was really funny. I was just like, wow, that's okay. We're done. All right. Actually, Trump is not going live, dude. Every time you do that, he already went live. He's not going to go live again. And if he does go live again, I would stream it, but there's no way he's going live. All right, we're out. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the Market Open. Bye, everyone.